Or what?
All the time.
You don't have to
Pants off.
I know.
Yes, ma'am.
Early Ridge.
I have met her. Good afternoon.
Walked in the door and she said, wow, they just keep getting bigger and taller.
That's right.
I just looked at it like,
You've never heard that before.
leaks and building it.
Oh,
Wow.
Vernon.
Yes, ma'am.
Because
Right.
that's how we got rid of the other one.
You
never know.
So this is that button, what they said, and notice how it's put. That's what, and I put that
You don't walk up to somebody and
We should
say,
bring one. We
so
should
you
bring one.
carry anything
I'll see if
or
I got one left over.
it doesn't work out, Paul.
Okay.
Showing up.
showing up.
Because he has
Like,
a
how are you, Earl?
house on Pretty Birdie. It's a really good
Yeah,
house last
yeah.
name.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yes.
Or something.
Okay.
And he was looking at 2 hangar leases with his brother, and then we vacate the line and we build.
Wrong-handed camera.
1 minute counting.
What do you want to do? Oh,
Good next to us.
Oh, for peace.
Tom did.
Oh, really? Oh, that's
Good to be here. Jordan will clear down next to the line.
Well, boy, Jordan,
Oh,
So maybe
really?
the front part's gonna go
Well, it'd be
really
good for
fast.
him.
are you about ready to
It's gonna happen
Yeah.
anymore.
We're
It's
ready.
gonna go so fast, so listen.
Come on
To
in.
blink your eyes.
You dare.
For yours, whatever.
The Custer County Board of County Commissioners meeting will come to order. Let the record show that it is June 8th, 2018, 1 o'clock p.m. It's with a heavy heart that I call the meeting to order with my fellow commissioners today. Obviously, with the passing of Mr. Butler, there's a huge hole in our hearts and in our community. So, may he rest in peace.
Amen.
Yeah, great influence on our community.
Yep.
So, with that, Mrs. Riggs, would you do the honor and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, ma'am?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am.
You see, you got an extra pen.
I did say that and I gave it to you.
Oh, there it is.
What happened to it, I can't tell.
Oh, here it is. It ended up on the floor with the coffee.
No. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Flowers.
Here.
Commissioner Candy.
Here.
Commissioner Prince.
Present.
Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
And Clerk to the Board Kelly Campbell present.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Amendments to the agenda. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's fine. No, that's.
I got a call from Ms. Archuleta earlier today, and she asked about supporting a letter of support for a grant for EMT training, which will greatly reduce the members. So I'd like to put that on. She's got a real short fuse. If we weren't having a meeting, I would have said, you know, let me just call this to you and get approval. But since we had a meeting, I invited her to come. So I'd like to add that on, please.
Okay. And did I understand you correct to say she had a short fuse?
On getting the letter from us to the grant people.
Okay.
I apologize, that came out incorrect.
Because I thought-
Nothing by it.
I thought you were just forewarning us.
Right, thought she was mad already.
Yeah, to go south in a hurry.
So that's
I
okay.
apologize, that was taken wrong.
How does that fit with our 24-hour requirement? So we don't get crossways with anybody.
Yeah.
We
How
can handle,
come it's such a short fuse? Maybe we need to understand.
well, we can discuss that, I guess. Let's
So
deal
we
with
can
it in
do it.
commissioner items, how's that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And as an amendment to the agenda, I would request that we strike the item Hank Miller of West Cliff Meats under new business, please. Strike that. He was unable to make the meeting today, so he requested that we drop him from the agenda.
And then if I could, I'd like to help the airport board out that's here because they're at the bottom. I don't know unless they want to hear about weed control. I would like to move them up in the agenda.
Well, we don't have any weeds at the
You don't have any
airport,
weeds,
so
maybe
we're
you
good.
should stay.
Yeah.
But we could do that. It's up. I think I don't know. We don't have very many things up there.
Yeah, we're all right.
I'm fine with
There-
that. I mean, there's no
It's
other,
all right.
there's other people who sleep on their agenda items. Yes, where would you like to move them to, sir?
Let's just put them first and get it over
Okay,
with.
under
You
new
wanna-
business, we're gonna slide those under, the first item under new business.
Okay,
Uh,
you
Yeah,
don't
runway
wanna do it
testing,
during their
update,
staff
and
report.
discussion. What's that?
You could
we
maybe
could do
do
it
it
during staff report.
during their staff report and then
That would be
their-
even better.
Okay.
All all together.
Airport.
Airport board, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll just, add, runway update to your,
Yeah, and it'll involve a
115
discussion
point.
and possibly, some other, things that we'll do.
okay. All right, anything else, gentlemen, for the agenda? Hearing none, we will move on, thank you. Audience introductions, Mr. Jolly, let's start with you, sir.
I'm Mr. Jolly.
I just threw that name out there in case you were confused.
Oh,
I
okay.
just wanted to help
I'm
you
Bob
out.
Jolly, Airport.
Thank you.
Ginny LeGree.
Lynn LeGree, Airport.
Jackie Hobby, zoning.
Justine Beach EMS. Beth Archuleta, EMS manager.
Short user.
Dallas Anderson, Airport Board.
Lynn Anderson, his wife. Cindy Flower.
Welcome, thank you. Nice to have you here. I don't believe we have any minutes to approve, so we'll move on to commissioner items. Commissioner Prince, would you like to start, sir?
Sure. I really have nothing to report since yesterday's meeting. I had a meeting with Dennis Hunt, the CTSI, but I'll save that for
Okay.
a workshop.
All right. And do you want to take this opportunity to address the EMS?
Sure, I'll be happy to. If you don't mind, can I ask Ms.
I'm
Archuleta
fine.
to join
Yeah,
us?
Sure,
Why
absolutely.
don't you come on up, Beth, because you're the one who has the information.
Hands are kind of spread out there.
Good to see you.
Hello.
Good job. You made it up here.
I did, with my short fuse.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll
to have a seat.
stand,
Okay.
yeah, no, I'll
That's
stand.
fine.
Okay.
I have a phobia of people behind me, so,
Oh.
yeah, it's weird, I don't.
Smart
yeah.
woman with this crowd.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you guys putting me on your agenda today, and it is a short notice. So as you've probably seen in the paper, we're planning on having an EMT basic class here locally to try and bring some locals on to provide the service for EMS in the county, as we know that is a problem, as a lot of us do work outside of this, or live outside of this county that we provide the service for. So, and we listened to communities' comments and concerns during the whole election, and so we were trying to get this EMT basic class to get started sometime in June, but looking at the cost and wanting to make it cost effective for residents of Custer County, we've decided to push it off until probably either the 1st or beginning of August. And with doing that, I found a CREATE grant yesterday that would pay for 50% of the cost of the class. So say it's $2,000 to have an EMT basic class, the CREATE grant's gonna pay $1,000 of that. I don't know if that's the cost, we're still working on numbers and stuff like that. But what I also found out yesterday was that this grant is due by 5 o'clock Monday, 5 p.m. Monday. So I do apologize that it is such short notice, and as I'm writing this grant today, here's this box, upload your letters of support, and I'm going, oh my goodness, who am I gonna get on such short notice? So technically I don't need the letter of support until Monday sometime, if that would appease the 24-hour period for you. I don't want to cause any trouble, but
I don't think
I don't think it does.
so support of having the EMT class so we can get some more EMT basics locally to help us out. Our goal eventually is to hopefully add a second ambulance crew on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's not going to happen next week, probably not later this year, but that is our goal with having these EMT basic classes. We look forward to having hopefully multiple classes if this one goes on. Myself and Molly Lantis, my assistant manager, are EMS instructors now, so we will be instructing the EMS class.
Okay. You need a letter from the commissioners
Supporting the EMT.
saying that we support the grant and we support EMS training of additional emergency medical techs.
Yes.
I don't know if that needs a motion, but I certainly feel that that's absolutely appropriate.
I'll move that we do, I don't think it
Yeah,
needs a
really
motion,
doesn't need-
it
this is
doesn't
just
need
a-
it, because we're not committing anything that.
It's not a
that
substantive
we-
decision
Well, I'd
that's,
say
Based on
general
what you
consent
said.
would be adequate, and I think you have that with us, so I would maybe ask you to get with Miss Brenda and hammer out a letter, and I can certainly, all three of us can sign it, or I can sign it on behalf of us Monday.
It's all
or-
three sign it, because it shows a lot of support.
So if you guys will come in Monday sometime, Monday morning probably,
Okay.
Miss Brenda, that would work?
Thanks for coming in. I knew this would be the answer. I just didn't feel I wanted to do behind your eyes back. So
Okay,
thank
nope,
you.
completely
It helped
understand. I didn't
clarify
know
it.
there was a meeting today, so.
Yeah, and just so you know, it helped clarify it for the record, and it was good.
Yeah, and I apologize, like I said, for the short notice,
No,
Just
but
found out.
we can't pass up 50% grant funds if it's gonna help residents here in the county to pay for a class, so.
Thank you so much.
Yep, if
Okay.
you'll give Brenda the
Thank you.
name of the grant contact people, we can
I
have
will.
that out.
Thank
You
you.
bet, thank you. Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Kanda, any items?
Just a couple hard to believe since last night at whenever it was. But I did manage to get to an Action 22 meeting yesterday for the board meeting, board of directors meeting. It was very good. It's good to be in the middle of it. Chuck Staggerwall was there, and I, representing this county. They did a good job. They had some interns that actually explained the legislation that's going to be on the ballot, or could be proposed. It's got to get through several iterations yet to see what we're actually going to be voting on it, but it was very good. Also learned that there's an organization that's trying to figure out how to tax us more.
What else is
And
new?
the reason is the gas tax that we've got's been on for 20 years, or 30 or 40, whatever it's been, not ever been changed. And in that time, the cost of transportation has gone up, the cost of moving, and then the number of cars that use gas has gone down. So it's a double whammy that they're getting. So they normalized it, and it looks logical. But nobody has a belly for a new tax, and they don't want to put it on an additional gas tax, so they're thinking about just putting it on the ballot for the state to vote a travel tax of some kind. And it's would involve about $1.80 a head for people in the state, but we'll have to see what the final language says. So stay tuned at your local ballot. So I thought that was interesting. It's worth going to those meetings. And then there were other things. Then I talked with our boys at the airport board. They'll give you a report here in a few minutes, and they've discussed what nice, good things we need to do to honor Alan a little more. We'll hear some more about that. And then I have been dealing with the family of the Representative Mike Joels on the process of how we're going to get on contract. I mentioned it to Clint yesterday. And we're going to begin testing on the 14th. That's when they want to do it. And the board's going to have to get the X's out on the runway and shut the runway down while they do it. And I want to enter the testing in for the record. I'll just give it to Kelly just to have. But what it is the non-destructive testing, which is going to go up the sides of the runway and up the middle of the runway with not drilling any holes, which is a good deal. It's a lot cheaper. And then the rest of there'll be some bores, a couple bores that they're going to do that aren't going to be very deep. But the total cost is going to be $14,000. We will talk about this after their report because the family has asked for us to share the cost on the testing, and I'll explain why when we get to that. Okay, so guys, why don't you give a report?
Well, let's hold off till we get to the staff report.
That's what I meant.
Oh.
That's all I would say. I'll wait for that when they do their thing.
Any other items?
No.
And I don't believe I have any either since yesterday. Attorney items?
the only thing I did was met with Jackie just before I came here to discuss issues she had, and I think we've agreed on a course of action. That's all I've done since yesterday.
And when we get to the road vacate on the agenda, you're
Right, got that all ready to
prepared
go.
for that?
Oh, we're not doing it right
No.
now?
It's on the agenda. New business? Yes.
We'll do it that way.
I think so.
All right.
Yeah.
You want us to call you when the time comes?
Yeah.
Where is it on the agenda?
Okay,
It won't take long.
administrative assistant items?
I just got a call from Dwight Gardner, who is with, Michael Bennett's office. He wants to be on the agenda on the 29th, and he was asking about wanting to set up office hours in Custer County, and he was asking about office space for that, so. Something for you
Places
to,
available, and I'd welcome them to come.
something for you to ponder,
Cool.
so,
Thank you. You'll put that on the agenda then?
yep,
Thanks. Anything else, ma'am?
that's it,
Great.
thanks.
Okay, we'll move into staff reports. We have, included our item of new business into the airport's report, so we'll do both of those things concurrently. Why don't we start with your standard report, sir, if you don't mind?
Don't mind.
Okay.
Good morning.
What happened to that fancy suit you had?
You're overdressed. Good morning.
Looked a lot different a couple hours ago, didn't you?
Well, this has really been a sad day for the airport.
Yeah. That's for sure.
And we found out that Bill Kite crashed.
Oh,
Right
Today?
before the
Yes,
funeral.
I am.
because I thought he was coming up today for the funeral.
Well,
No. Oh,
Anyway.
no, I was thinking of the manager from the
Is he
airport.
okay?
No, Dick, yeah.
he's in the hospital.
Sorry.
Wow.
So I had to run home because he's my next door neighbor. And he's got a couple of dogs that are sick, and we can't leave the dogs at home. And I knew Sherry wanted to get out of town, so
And he was in his airplane?
yes. One of them.
Yeah.
Sad.
Where was that at?
New Mexico, I believe.
Yeah, that was New Mexico,
Yeah.
somewhere in New Mexico. He's in Albuquerque Hospital.
He just took off, but wasn't in the air long, was he?
I don't know the
If
story
you would
yet.
pass on our best wishes from the Board of Commissioners, please.
I'll do that, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, getting on to other stuff.
What a bad day this is.
Yeah.
Yeah. As in the month of May, we sold 468 gallons of fuel. The first 7 days of June, we sold 215. So it is flying season again, and right now we have in the tank 465. So I called World Fuel on the 15th of May and told them to start looking for us to split a load of fuel. And they said they would, and when I went out to look at how much fuel we still had, I got a little bit panicky. So I called my good friend over in Pueblo, Dan Olson, and at 9 o'clock last night I got a call back from him, and we are getting a load of fuel Wednesday.
Good. Panicky because,
How low was it?
465, and when we get down to 250, we shut
yeah, so you were,
because it gets too much sediment in the bottom.
Well, there's good, it's gonna go quick.
Yeah. So anyway,
Lynn might get his plane.
Never know.
yeah, you might start flying again. One of the other things, and this is sort of out of order, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. If this whole thing with the OT6 happens, there was concern among some of our folks at the airport about testing Jet A. I called Reed Fuller, who is their head quality assurance guy in Chicago, and talked to him quite a long time, and sort of brought him up to date on where this might go, and wanted to know about the testing. And he told me, if you're comfortable with 100, you'll be comfortable with Jet A. Some of the equipment is different. The filter are different. The DP gauge is different because they'll be pumping 200 gallons a minute instead of
25.
25, maybe on a good
On a
day.
good day.
And the specific gravity is a little different.
the color is different, but the testing is basically the same. You sump the filters, you sump the tank, you check for clarity and all that kind of good stuff. But anyway, he told me it wasn't a big deal. And I asked him about different training. He said, if you've been to any of the training, you're good to go. And I let him know that if there's local training, generally they have it up in Colorado Springs once a year. We'll be sending our folks up there to get some refresher, just to make sure, because at the time we didn't have Jet A, and we don't know if we're going to get Jet A, but if we do, then I would rather send them up there so they could ask specific questions about Jet A, and not just be concerned about the 100.
Bob, can I ask you a question, please?
Yes, sir.
If we do get the deal with the OT6 and we put in tanks for Jet A, will we have the same issue about finding split loads, or, I mean, is this going to put a burden on you trying to figure out how to keep Jet A fuel in the tanks?
To me, that's not a huge issue, because you know, we've sort of gotten to know a lot of folks around the state and trying to split loads, and there's enough other airports that have Jet A, depending on what size they want.
You know, what it ends up to be.
What it ends up to be, and how many gallons we sell, but it's
not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
Part of it, the reason would be that requires a lot of fuel on that airplane.
Yes.
So the tank that they'll put in is going to be fairly large, so you may not have to worry too much about splitting the loads until they get a certain amount down.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the expiration date on Jet A is the same as it is on the 100. Yeah, 9 months.
Okay, good.
So anyway, we'll cross that bridge when and if we ever get there. One of the things that y'all, and I should say you all instead of y'all, I come from the South, but anyway, was to get more out in front of our community, to let them know who we are and what we do. So one of the things we came up with is every month we're going to put a little ad in the paper. It's going to be called a airport factoid or something of that nature, and it's going to say how long our runway is, how wide it is. Did you know that we have 22 airplanes, 1 jet? Those type of things, but we're coming up and we're going to just do it once a month. The cost is less than $250, and we got $500 in our budget, so we're okay there. The other thing is, this is sort of what it's going to be bigger than this, but this is sort of what it's going to look like. Bob Giacomelli didn't know how to make it bigger, but anyway, it's going to be bigger than that, but it's going to be just the fact of the month. And the other thing we've talked about is having something out at the airport for the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and EFFA and those folks. And one of the things we're struggling with is every time we have an event at the airport, we struggle mightily to find something to cook on. Last thing we had was on the 4th of July last year, and we ended up cooking on a bunch of single burner camp stove things, hibachis and camp stoves. But
I have a gas grill that I'm happy to donate to the airport.
Well, we had a bunch of those that we all took out, but
yeah,
okay. If you'd like it,
everybody packs them on the back of their vehicles. But I did run into a thing, and it's Blackstone grills, 36 inches wide, and we just got to figure out how we're going to finance that. But we'll figure it out. We always do.
Meantime, you can use, that's a nice donation.
If you'd like it.
Wouldn't have to haul it. It could stay out there, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I'd give it to you.
And the Blackstone one is it's got a big grill that
Yes,
you can do pancakes and
You can
do a lot of
do,
things.
you can do 28 hamburgers, 72 hot dogs, and 16 steaks all at one time.
Making me
You're
hungry.
not fooling around. You're
Sounds like a
spending some
commercial.
gas. That's good. Yeah, that's right. Where do I sign up?
What kind of dollar figures you talking about?
It's $4.99.
Yeah,
I believe it
that
is.
was correct.
And that's for everything. That comes with the cover and 722 square inches of extra storage space. And
We'll have to see how you get through the summer and what we may have enough in the budget to handle that.
yes, and speaking of budgets, we looked at our current budget and looked at our spending projections for the rest of through next April. And here are those numbers and what we think our balance is going to be at the end of the year. So, and this is based on Dallas Anderson's best educated guess, because he's been dealing with our budget for quite some time. And it gets high, well, we got June, because we know we're going to be buying 2,000 gallons of fuel. And then we have the insurance coming up in August, and insurance again in January. But the rest of it pretty much deals with our monthly utility bills, the phone bill, the light bill, gas bill, those type things. And at the end of the year, we look at about 4,700 in our budget at the end of the year.
Does that include the revenue for the gas sales, the profit?
I don't know if you put the
Didn't
revenues
look
in.
like it. This is all
No,
expensive.
I did not put the revenues for gas sales on that, but if we're certainly gonna need to buy more fuel before the end of this year. And I'm anticipating fuel costing $5 a gallon. So that's $10,000 at least for a load of fuel later on in the year.
But you will have.
And our revenue
Yes.
between now and then
Should cover.
would be about, well, at our present rate of sale, would be about $9,700.
You're right there.
Would be
Yeah,
short,
and the profit on it probably might help on it.
Yes, yes.
so,
But we'll figure it out one way or the other.
but yeah, that's why I put that note on the bottom
How much
about
gallon are you
fuel
making
sale.
now?
30 cents a gallon, something like that.
30.
Right. And the current price on fuel, yesterday when I got a quote from World Fuel, is $3.95. So my suggestion was to Dallas, when we pay the split load fee, it's going to end up being about $4. So we can either leave it where it is. Right now we're selling at $4.55. But we're thinking a little bit about giving local pilots a little bit of a break. You know, if the most would be maybe a dime, so they'd be paying 40 cents per gallon for us as opposed to 50 cents.
How are you gonna ever determine who's local and who's not?
Well,
You're talking about people who have airplanes at our
Right.
airport?
yes,
Okay, I have an issue there.
That is
just,
only that.
Yeah, discount
just the
card.
people that have airports at our airport.
Airplane.
Yeah, okay, I'm good with that.
What they do is they give us our credit card number, and we go into the system and put their credit card number in there
With a discount.
with a 10-cent discount or 2% or whatever. And then when they put their credit card in, it knows it gives them a 10-cent discount or 2% or whatever it might be.
Is it something prompt that, or is it just a kind of a benefit you'd like to give people?
Yeah, because they're local and they buy the most fuel.
Right.
And
And they volunteer.
they, yeah, most of
I'm not
them
opposed,
volunteer.
I'm just curious what prompted this. Did some people come to you and say, hey, you're ripping us off
No,
the fuel,
no,
we can
no,
go over
no.
here and get it for less? That's the kind of thing I was worried about.
No, and there's a lot of people that aren't on our board that are local folks. Bill Geipel is a shining example. He does a lot for the airport.
Sure.
He puts on the pancake breakfast once a year and all that kind of good stuff. And we said, wouldn't it be nice if we could get the folks that have airplanes at the airport that help us out a little bit of a break?
Good.
The other thing we're considering, we've talked about a little bit before, is to get more incentive we can give people to come, the more we'll sell. And pilots do look in, there are lots of aviation books that'll tell you the price of gas within a 100-mile radius of any airport you pick. So that you can decide to zigzag into that field. If it's a lot cheaper 20 miles away, they'll do it.
Sure.
Well, and a lot of it deals with climbing too.
Right.
Because of the altitude we are. If they're going to Aspen,
Yeah, we're already here. Why go into Pueblo, go down, and then go way up more higher than we are here to start with? So,
or into Walsenburg,
right.
because it's a heck of a climb from
Right.
Walsenburg to here.
you lose a lot of fuel, don't you?
You lose a lot.
So one of the thoughts we've had is that, you know, the airport is an economic draw for a lot of people. And the more you get, the more the word spreads and the more other people come, they'll even drive in here. So if we can do that, we're gonna try to, we'll talk to the towns and see if they wanna subsidize that, a few pennies a gallon, you know, on it to drive it a little further down than what we can afford now, keep the sales as high as we can. There's lots of thoughts that we've been tossing around on how do you draw it, get more picnics out there, get people to give airplane rides to the kids, that kind of thing, 4-H club.
So, I don't mean to be not negative here, but is that a decision that the airport should make, or is that a decision that the BOCC should make?
When I say that.
I don't know.
Well, when I say that, it's, the airport's tossing around, when we go make a decision, then we bring it here to, as a rep, I would do that.
am fully on board with that.
Communication
Yeah,
is
we're not
key.
gonna, we're not gonna just
Well, we've
do
given
something.
you the authority to adjust fuel prices.
Right.
So I was concerned that maybe you were gonna do that also. It's just a thought.
No.
Okay.
There's lots of
I
neat
like the
ideas, some of
idea
these.
personally.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they are,
They're paying for hangars,
right.
they're paying for other services, they're using our facilities, giving the local a break. I don't have a big problem with that at all. I just was concerned about how the process was gonna work. I'm good.
Yeah, we'll keep it.
Yeah. And if
Transparency is our
yes,
motto.
and if we're gonna
And
do
really, that's where I'm going with it.
yeah, if we do anything that's gonna impact the county, of course, we'll come and let you all know before we ever do it.
This could fall under the authority we gave you to adjust prices. So, but this is a philosophy change, not a price change.
Right,
So that's why I was
there's a
thinking it
difference
should
when we
come
say,
to-
like, let's go and talk to the towns, that's a little bit bigger scope, and they represent the county, you know.
I think you're handling it exactly right. I'm on board with you. Thank you.
One of the questions I have, I believe I've read either in the bylaws or in a resolution from the commissioners that the price point could not fall below X number of cents
Yes,
above what you're
correct.
paying for.
It's
So as long as you're staying within those guidelines,
Yeah,
we're good?
Yeah, you gave us latitude to go down to 25. And your original was 50 cents. And we said, give us a little bit of latitude because we couldn't compete with it.
Right.
And when you look it up on AirNav or wherever, it's a 60-mile radius. And they tell us the average, and right now, yesterday when I looked it up, it was 457. We're at 455. So we're right there. And if we had charged 50 cents instead of the, whatever it is, we would be over.
So the
only
fun,
reason the average is at 457 is because Walsenburg's in there
yeah.
and they're
real low.
subsidized.
So that's what makes it gonna be, there's fun things we can do and get people involved in the donations can be put in a pot and allowed to also drive that price point down without cost. You know, even 2 or 3 cents is a big deal when you're burning 400 gallons to get here for a pancake dinner.
Yeah, especially if you're flying a jet.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You mentioned your newspaper thing. Are you considering putting that in both papers? Or are you gonna select one paper, or what's
Right
your
now,
plan for
right
that?
now it's the Trib, and, I don't have a problem with that, except I think it would be a good idea to do it in both papers so that we could get the most exposure, but that's something I'll have to bring up to the board and make sure they're on board with that. So, at our next board meeting, if it's on the agenda.
Can I give my thought on that? Our paper of record is the Sentinel. I think they would be choice one. And then if you chose to do the Trib also, that would be an add-on. It should, I think your philosophy should be the other way around. That's my
Okay.
thought, because you are, that
Yes.
is our paper of
Yes,
record.
yes,
And the more exposure, the better. If you can afford
Yes.
it, we should do what you can.
yes.
I would agree with that, but if
And
you're gonna do
since-
only one, it really ought to be a Sentinel.
Since it's less than $250 a year, and we've got a $500 budget,
And the Sentinels are often, and I'm not speaking for them, is often
Yes.
considerably less than the
Yes.
Trib,
Yeah,
so.
they'll-
And the circulation is considerably less too, that's why. But they are our paper
Well,
of record.
the reason that, and really it hasn't been selected yet because we haven't made a final decision on this yet, is because we asked Bob Giacomelli to ramrod this deal. Also, he's working with Cindy Howard to try to get something going with the airport, and an agreement between them and the airport on the use of our facility. Because we already have a fire truck out there and those things.
It's a neat thing.
Yeah, so anyway, he's ramrodding that, and that's where he got the price from. That doesn't mean that that's where it's gonna be, but that's where he got the price from.
Got it.
Yep.
And so I know it's not gonna be over $250
Perfect.
a year
For one.
for one paper.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing that Commissioner Prince brought up, is that Sentinel is a paper of record for the county. Probably ought to certainly give them
a shot.
consideration,
Yeah,
or start with them.
I think they need it,
So,
and then if you
yeah.
choose to do the other one.
yeah.
And I think in general, from a Board of Commissioners point of view, no matter what we're advertising, it's probably best to put it in both papers as much as we could in order to cover the base and keep the papers going.
Their budget, can they
If
afford it?
the budget
really
can
is.
afford it.
But if they can only afford one,
Then
it ought
I
to be
agree.
paper.
No, I'm
Yeah.
agreeing, just the philosophy thing is all I was saying.
Well, let's move on. What else, sir?
Okay, so.
Don't fly away.
So, yeah, don't go flying away. So let's, we need to finish up on the rest of our discussion, well, I've talked to the board about this. The family would like us to split the cost of the testing, the $14,000. And I thought about it, at first they came in and said, well, we'll get the testing done. Since then, they have agreed to reduce the cost of the testing significantly by changing the methodology. And then they said, good faith, they said, you all also need to know what the load capability of that airport is. And in fact, so I asked the guy, so how many times in the past have we had people ask, what is the capability so I can land my airplane? And it's a lot.
I have no idea what it is. And that, to me, it is disturbing. I used to tell people.
You don't have any idea what the load capability is, and they
That's correct.
can't answer the question.
So, I've always, in good faith, answered that question to what I've been told. I was told this by Dale Mullen and past people on the board. And then, when the Air Force calls me once in a while and asks me, the Army's called us and asked
I tried to
us,
get an F-16 in here some time ago, and they asked.
and when Audit 6 said, you have it in writing, I tried to find it in writing. They came up here and we went through all our records at the airport. I called, where's Jackie? I called Jackie and asked her if she had anything on record. I went to the state and talked to our point of contact at the state, and everybody gave me a different number. And I said, where did that number come from? That's what we've heard, or that's typical of an airport your size.
Good enough.
I said,
Right.
From a liability point of view, you can't go on and guess.
So, Now, if the Air Force were to call me today and ask me that question, I'd say, I don't know.
Yeah, and we lose out a lot. So the next step in the discussion went like this. It's, okay, so it's a win-win for the county, because if they load bearing capability of that runway is less than their airplane with any amount of fuel, because to land here, that's the issue. And they would like to have enough to get out of here and go a decent ways away to get more fuel. They don't really care if they can come in here with their full load, which would be fairly
Because
heavy.
they're
And it,
not gonna
for all we know, it still may carry their full load, and they would really love it. So it's a win-win for us, it's a win-loss for them, because they could end up foot and half the bill and not being able to even land here. So I think it's a reasonable request. I don't think it's a lot of money, and I think we have a ways to afford that. And since, and I would recommend we can discuss it, but I think because it's an economic use of the money, we have economic development fund that we have for the county already. And there's $8,000 in it, so I think there's plenty of room to go ahead and, at the end of the year here right now, we don't have to pay it right away. Until, it'll fit in with whatever schedule and whatever we agree for payments to be made. But that's a recommendation I have. Now, we can discuss options, but we're gonna start the test on the 14th. We don't have to have the contract in place, but it needs to be in place soon in order to get, from a liability point of view and all that coverage. So the 14th is when they would like to begin testing. And we can set the structure up. And here's the rest of the story. What they're proposing to do is set up an escrow fund that the family funds for county to use. It's a public-private method. That's right, and it's what they have already done. The Armstrong Engineering's already done that, and they're nationwide. Given that,
It's 2019, and holds a
I agree.
cost, and it's, so it needs to be done.
And I agree with,
being good citizens, so I would hate to go back and say, nah.
I got a suggestion. How about, because it's not budgeted this year, we ask them to fund it this year, and we'll reimburse them once we have a budget for 2019.
You're thinking the same here, but I don't have a problem with that, and they'll go along with that. That's what I meant when I said they're gonna put a pot of money in there anyway, and we will reimburse them whenever we agree. But I wanted to get that out straight first. Secondly, though, I do not know what we're gonna spend $8,000 of economic development money on. It's for everybody. It's not a CCED incorporated pot.
I agree.
And to me, this is a big deal, and we could even use some of the money to do some of the advertising these guys are wanting to advertise anyway, and have a big party out there when we get the. There's lots of things you can do with OCC.
I fully understand.
So, I think that's the debate. We can talk about it, but we need to make a motion here. I would move that we actually fund this money, and whether we can just discuss in the discussion whether we defer it and take it out of the next year's budget, which is not a bad idea, or that I don't want to waste the money on the economic development either that is there, and I want it to go foul and go back into a pot later. So I would move that we do that. Let's have the discussion.
Tom, can I ask you to chime in?
Well, we have a motion. Your motion, if I understand it, is to fund half of the cost of the
Right.
testing. And is that
This year.
fair to say that's $7,000?
Yes.
Or is that an estimate, or?
No, it's $7,000.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to fund half of the study on the testing of the airport through the economic development line. Is that what I
Yes.
understand you to say? Is there discussion?
Now, we can discuss, Jay, if I like the concept of deferring it, if that's the right thing to do, but we need to understand the pros and cons of doing that.
So, I absolutely concur. You need to have this information. Someone's got I'm not an aviation guy, but someone has a little heavier plane that says, is it safe for me to land at your airport? You've got to have this information. You can't say, well, no, you will try it out, maybe you'll make it, maybe you won't.
Sound like a
That's
bunch of
not an
hillbillies.
answer, obviously.
Big divot in the runway, broken wheel.
Well, we sound like a bunch of hillbillies.
So it has to be done. I have
Yeah.
no doubt about
I
that.
mean-
And the advantage now is, instead of us footing money for everybody, I'm okay with that. What I'm having a little angst about is taking the money from a pot that we don't know what the need's going to be from that pot down the road. You know, that's my
Well,
concern.
Okay, and you asked me for my way in, and I'll certainly give
Please
that.
do.
I think that, I agree with what both of you have said. It's a need. We can't walk around shrugging our shoulders and saying, well, we really don't know what the weight capacity is. My take on the economic development thing is, I truly believe this airport is an economic development constituent in our county. I don't think a lot of people agree with that statement, but I don't care what a lot of people agree or disagree with. I believe that certainly it is, and it has a ton of potential to be an economic impact in our county. I think that's the way we have to start looking at this airport, more so than maybe we have in the past. So that's why I would be in favor of drawing the funds out of that economic development line, because I think this is a move in economic development. We'll take some heat for that, I understand that, but that's how I feel about that. You know, we have honored any request that's come forward for that economic development money, and have taken some heat for some of that as well. So that's kind of where I shake out on it as a commissioner, that I think we do need to look at our airport as an impact driver of this county and act accordingly.
And I see the board really putting a lot of effort into growing that and making it more visible, and I think it's we sure don't want to defer it, not with an opportunity.
I'm on board. I mean,
Yeah.
I just have these concerns.
That's good.
And the bottom line is, if something comes up with a need that we wanted to classify as economic development later, and the fund's not there, we can look elsewhere. and
Yes, we
transfer
can.
funds in
We can go
also.
across other things.
So the only one there are
Right.
few funds that are absolutely sacred, we can't touch, road and bridge, for example.
Right.
Do we need to talk to treasurer or anybody before we make this decision?
No, no.
Budgeted money.
The budget, it's there. It's
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to throw out too was that I think there are times when we have to have some vision in our county, and sometimes that may involve taking a leap of faith. We don't really know what kind of impact BOCC or the Navajos are going to have on our county. We don't know that. But we have to, I think, take a leap of faith and be willing to step out and say, but we believe that we're going to get some good feedback for our county from our involvement, our relationship with these people. I don't think we're always going to have to be able to have everything written down in black and white in order to make a decision that we think is the best for the county. And I think this is one of those great
Just
examples.
before the vote, if for some reason they BOCC chooses to back out, are we gonna have to reimburse them their contribution for half of it? So what we're basically saying
that's why I said it's a
is-
win-loss for them.
Right, there's no, I'm trying to find the downside to this other than the concept that we won't pay for anything, but I understand what they're trying to say.
And one thing too, for the public record, and for people that don't know it, BOCC, and I mentioned at the last meeting, has jumped into this community with both feet. I've got a picture of the proposed scoreboard we're buying for the school through the Booster Club. It's a huge 36-foot wide, 10, 12 feet tall, and it's got BOCC in the middle of the scoreboard underneath that's sponsored it. And so they're gonna be full force in this community, and they are giving us the opportunity to make money with their investment on the whole fuel farm and everything. So that's why when they said, at first I said, man, you guys, and I said it to the pilot, their rep said, you guys said it's gonna be all paid for. You know, that's the first thing you do, well, what are you gonna do?
They have the scoreboard, are we?
Yeah, no, no, we're not.
Just
And so that's why I think it's important to show good faith to them, that we are willing to meet them, and we can find the money.
I agree.
Well, we have the money.
We have the money, but I mean, we can find the money for the
Well,
other things.
Let's vote on it. 'cause I
And there
think
might be a time when somebody comes and says, hey, we wanna do this for economic, we're sorry. We don't have any more economic development money. We don't have to grease every piece of
Any good, every idea.
wheel that comes in either, but
Okay.
certainly can deal with those as we come across.
Good
the road.
discussion.
I just want to voice my concern.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm ready to vote.
And after the vote, after we do it, I'll get with Clint, and we need to move out, and with the guys, because we've gotta get X's on the runway, we've gotta get a notice to airmen to shut the runway down on the 14th, and get on contract.
Now, I guess, it doesn't have anything to do with the vote, I'll mention it now so we can remember to talk about it. Do we need to, as a commission, vote on this whole testing thing or not? I don't know about that. Is that within the authority of the board to contract for that kind of money? I don't know, but it's a question. Further discussion on the pending motion, which is,
The only further discussion I have is, I don't remember the motion actually saying that the 7,000 would come out of economic
I
development.
did.
Well, did it say that?
he didn't say that. I asked him if it was,
I
I'm
actually did say it, but
paraphrasing that correctly.
he restated
Okay,
it.
I'm ready to vote.
Public comment?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, you just brought up a real point, about the approval to do the testing. As the board that we are, as I understand how we're constituted, we still do not have authority to say yes on this.
Dallas, he was referring to the board of directors, not the airport board. The board are, that's how this came to us in the first place. You guys brought it to us because you
Right.
told me you can't, and I agreed, you don't have the authority to say, let's go do the testing. That's
Yeah,
what
that's
we
true.
did, and we agreed that it needs to be done, and it's this board that's making that decision, and that's what we just said, we're gonna approve the testing be done, and we're gonna split the cost.
Okay.
We have to do it by the 14th.
And the one thing that bothers me is that, this company, the BOCC people, they brought this up themselves first time, and, they said they would pay for the whole thing. We have it in writing, I have a copy of that. And all of a sudden now they wanna, pay half of it.
Well, maybe the first thing was modifying the runways, they didn't mention the testing, I don't know.
Then
But we've
again-
discussed that, you're right.
And down the road, a year from now, year and a half, putting in Jet A. At best that I can dredge up for numbers today. If they got a 10,000 gallon tank with all the dispenser and everything that makes it go, they're looking at about $30,000. And are they gonna want the county to pay half of that when that comes around?
That is a wonderful question. We don't know the answer, of course, but the question is right. Because they originally said, we'll pay for the whole thing on the testing, they wanted half. Is this a precedent? It's not a precedent we're setting, because all we have to do is say, we're not doing it.
Right.
And that's all we have to do.
Dallas-
But your question is well
It
taken.
is, but you missed the meeting where I brought the letter in from them.
With the cost.
And it clearly states that if the runway can support it, this is after the testing, can support our aircraft, we propose the following at our expense. And that's what I have to get with Clint, and we're gonna list out the things they gave us. Construction of the pad, construction of new modifications for existing taxiway, Jet A single point over the wing system, private instrument approach. Those are the items that will be in the contract that we will sign and they will agree to. I don't care what the cost is, as long as they've agreed that they will foot the bill. And that's what
Well, I don't have a copy of that letter, I have the copy of the.
I gave it to the board to give to you guys. I gave it to Alan and Bob when they came in here.
But anyway, it just bothers me with
I agree. That's,
$14,000 to a company that's worth over 17 billion.
but remember,
It's-
and that's the exact words I used with them too, Dallas. And that's when he came back and said, "Well, look, it's just a good faith piece, and we want they want to make sure we care enough, and we do, to understand our own load limits that we have on our runway."
Yeah, we really need to know that.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable too, Bill. You bring up a good point, is it's information we're gonna get back that we probably should have.
And we're lucky to be
So,
getting half of it paid for.
We can look at it as an investment.
That's the way I look at
Yeah.
it.
It's an investment.
We have to have the
Yeah.
information, they're paying for it.
Further public comment, I'm gonna call the vote on this, and then we're gonna come back to the other item that you spoke of, Dallas, so if you'll bear with me just a second. We'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the county funding half of the cost of the testing in the amount of $7,000 to be paid for out of the economic development line, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We will inform our financial officer of that, and we'll move forward. Now, so I'm back to my original question. I don't believe we as a commission have voted to allow this testing to even occur.
I haven't been here at a meeting that
And so,
voted that, so.
my question was, is this something that falls within the authority of the board,
Let's go
airport
ahead and
board?
vote on it, and that way.
Think
Do
we
it,
have to
let's
worry
just
about
do it.
You know, it's one of those things, it's not gonna hurt to have it. So I move, now that we have funded the testing, that we authorize the
Right.
testing to take place.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we authorize the testing of the airport for load capacities. Discussion.
Let me amend that. And I think you ought to authorize me to be the point of contact to continue negotiations and contracting, working with Clint to make sure we get a contract in place for the county that meets the requirements of their request and our needs.
Okay. By consent, can we add that then?
Sure.
Further discussion on the motion of authorizing the testing of the airport and assigning Mr. Kanda as point of contact for such testing.
And the further construction, that was the point of the net contract.
You are the airport
Right.
commissioner.
Right,
Point of
so,
contact.
so we have to
You
develop
are
a
the-
contract for the testing, that's part A. Part B is the construction.
It's fine.
Further debate? Comments from the public? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We will delegate authority to the airport board to pursue that testing, and work in conjunction with Commissioner Kanda
Yeah.
to represent the Board of County Commissioners.
I got a question. Which days are they proposing for us to close it?
Here,
And,
I'm gonna give you the answer.
okay, and do we close it at
6 in the morning.
20, let me finish.
Well, that's what it's,
2200 Zulu on the 13th?
yeah.
Or do we do it at,
Do it the way the NOTAMs are, you have to get a NOTAM out
Right.
anyway.
Could you tell us what the Zulu, what time Zulu is here?
Speak in English.
It's 8 hours, ahead of us. It's Greenwich Mean Time, or 6 hours.
6 hours?
I'm
Okay,
thinking.
so at 6 a.m. you're talking about our time.
Right, so do I close it at 6 o'clock in the evening, our time on the 13th, which is about when we quit flying in here anyway? And is it for 2 days or just one?
1 day.
1 day? All right, then I'll close it in the evening of the 13th. And
Open it the next evening.
Then open it the evening of the 14th.
Right.
Got it?
All right. Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
I do have a quick question for you as an airport board. Don't expect you to answer it right now, but I'll throw the question out there. Do you anticipate the airport board trying to fill Mr. Butler's vacancy before the end of the year, or are you
Yes.
going to leave that open?
No, we're gonna fill it before the
You
end.
better look at the bylaws.
You come in here and not paying attention to your bylaws, you'll get barked at. That's all I can tell you.
We'll follow our
There
bylaws.
you go. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good job, Bob.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
All right, sir. Be strong. Don't weaken. It's tough.
I am. Never mind. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
I'm assuming we're beeping the treasurer's office.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks,
Thank
Lynn.
you, guys. Thanks, Liz. Good to see you later.
Thanks, Bob.
Bye.
Take care.
Thanks, Dallas.
Nope.
Bye.
We need to do that.
Oh, Virginia's back.
I'm good.
How are you doing?
I know.
Good. Good. See ya.
Down.
Thanks, ma'am. I think, gentlemen, you have the financial on.
If I can read it through my coffee stain. Yeah. Tom made me do it.
I can give you a fresh one.
No.
Everything on board?
Yeah, pretty good this month.
Okay, good. Good. And I don't know if we've had this conversation or not, but in the event that I was remiss in letting you know that, and I would send out something formally, we are scheduled to meet with
June 21st?
yeah, I think I'm headed, yes, June 21st, 9 o'clock. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Wanted to make sure we got that on your calendar, so just more of a learning thing, I think, for us, but thought you should be involved. Good.
It's at 9 o'clock, I have one.
9.
9?
You don't straighten up over there. Yeah, well, there was a reason. I told her it was at 1, because.
You did run in there, yeah.
You want me to show what's over?
But now that it's out on
Jay's
the,
looking around an empty room.
now that it's out in the open, I might as well just
No,
turn up.
okay.
No, I've got it at 9
That's
o'clock.
fine,
so,
I just
yeah.
changed my calendar, it's not
Yeah.
an issue, I just had it at 1, I'm very glad someone told me. 'Cause
Yeah, and I'll
someone's
send
gonna
out, as we
blame
get
me
closer, I'll
on
send
these
out an
meetings.
email to everybody about that. Okay, commissioners, any questions?
No, the only one I have, Virginia, is you got an airport line here, and we just were discussing a method that we're gonna have to talk to you about putting a new, a escrow fund in from a public donation to improve the airport. Do we wanna use that line, or would you set up a separate one for us to draw as we construct the new construction?
The way ours work in our office, you have airport single line in here. on this
I know it.
But in ours, there's more to it.
Okay, so you would set up a separate
Southern
count within that, but it would roll up into an airport line. That's what I was asking. Good.
And you would receive those funds and Donna would disperse them?
I'm always supposed to receive all county.
Right. So it'll go into you, Don will figure out how she's gonna issue the checks as we get billed. Like
Sound
normal.
reasonable?
Okay,
And that's some more of the conversations we hope to have on the 21st too, is with Sam to say, hey, can we do it? Should we be doing it? Should we not be doing it? Or whatever.
So you're expecting donations for there?
It sounds like,
Or a
yeah.
donation box out there?
Yeah, no.
big box.
They get a quarter and a nickel.
$17 billion corporation maybe make donations, so, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
completely paying for the big picture out there.
But anyway, yeah, we just need to make sure if and when it happens, we have a place to receive those funds and not be a surprise for anyone. Anything from you, ma'am? Concerns, issues?
Not right now, we're doing like
Okay.
moving along.
Good, good.
Sounds great.
You're not Lampin.
Yes, we are.
I would move that we accept the
I'll second it.
treasurer's report. Been moved and seconded to accept the treasurer's report. Discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed nay. Motion carries.
So Virginia, is the cash not coming in when you expected it, or is it less than what you expected?
Well, since we're gonna be 600,000, there's not enough cash to come in to pay all the expenses.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. So far, like I said, we're moving along.
I got you.
All righty, thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in. I know we're running a little behind schedule, but
Not too far.
we're gonna try to catch up.
Okay.
OEM, welcome.
We can't, it's Cindy.
How are you?
What?
I said, now we can't catch up, it's Cindy.
Oh, no, yeah. Donna told me I had to be quick, so I don't know if I can do that or not.
Yes, you can. I know you can.
How are you?
I'm tired.
Are ya?
My fault. Too much finance education.
When'd you get back?
Wednesday night at 5 o'clock. I mean, I drove back and forth Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I just spent the one night in Pagosa and then a personal night on Thursday and watched and went up. And so it was long days. They ran it just like an incident command post. There was an incident commanders, operations, daily briefings. I skipped the daily briefings because I was driving up to Salida.
Wow.
It was good.
Good.
It was long. Yeah, I'm tired, but it's almost Saturday.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's right. I'm pulling up your report now.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was curious, looking at your report, is there a new county called Fremont?
yeah, see, I found the typo. I don't know what it is with my word program. Spell check doesn't work out for them. But I did find that today. I have it highlighted in book.
Well, if the extension agent can call it Pueblo, we can do about call it Fremont, so.
Well, I've heard Pueblo called everything.
Oh, I know.
Yep, I definitely got a typo on that one.
That
Down there on the
I was
April.
just joking with you. Please don't take that as a
Yeah,
criticism.
that's fine. Yeah, I used to get razzed on this before too. So, on that April and May reimbursement requests, the $21,000 and $39,000, those both came in on June 6th. So we put in $60,000.
Wow.
There's about just under $68,000 left on that public health grant.
That's where the
See, there you
$7,000
go.
ought to come from, because they're the ones flying the helicopters in and the emergency
There you go,
ambulances
there
in
you
and
go,
all
bring 'em
that.
in.
Never mind.
She's got the
I'm
bucks.
broke.
She's got the money.
67.
It's only 7,000, Cindy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I sent out an email this morning, forwarded it to Dennis Page with the Forest Service. They have a prevention and education team coming in. There's a meeting Monday, 10 a.m. with Wet Mountain Fire. A lot of stakeholders are invited. I just forwarded it so you would have it, and I sent it to a couple more people on Wetmore Fire that weren't on the distribution list. So I'm not sure what all that's going to entail. It looks like there's people from several counties, and it's a last-minute deal. But they got some emergency funding, so they're supposed to listen to us. So just so you know, that's going on Monday at 10. There's another fire conference call at 1 o'clock on Monday. Then we're doing an after action at 2 o'clock on Monday for the Hardscrabble fire at the fire station.
Congratulations on the enormously quick and efficient response to that fire.
Yeah, I think
Great job.
Well, a lot of that was everything being in the right place at the right time and being an available resource, not being assigned to anything else.
Good job.
Yeah, it was luck of the draw. And I was in class, and so I came out and I talked to Dennis Page, and I was going to come home as promised, but Dennis said, I'm not even leaving. I'm sending you 3 engines and 2 seats, and I have a hotshot crew available. And then by the time Joe Lobiondo texted me back, I think pretty much from the OEM side, Chris Barr and Meredith did it, but it was great training for Meredith.
Yeah, it was.
She did great, and it was just small enough that, it was good. Get her adrenaline pumping, good training for her. So I thought, from what I heard, she did great. And I think just, from the public expectation part, we may not ever, that was lucky to have those folks there. So I'm glad to.
And that starts at 10 according to
Dennis's?
the thing on Monday.
Yeah, the public education team stakeholder meeting is at 10 a.m. They're supposed to listen to us.
And that's the firehouse.
So I'll pretty much be at the firehouse all day Monday. And then also Monday was the deadline we put on the modifying the fire ordinance. And Shannon and I have a bunch of comments in there, so I've got some questions for you, Clint, at some point. But Shannon thought if we got done with the after action quick enough, we could work through a few of those things and maybe get that to Clint for his, because he wins all the arm wrestling contests on that. And then we're hoping to get that ordinance for first reading at your mid-month meeting if possible. So, so I did.
Just send me what
Okay.
you've got.
Okay.
If you and Shannon are in agreement, are you?
There's some questions, so I made some hard copies that I can leave with you. I'll send you the Google link too, but just in case you want to.
Well, I've got the original.
Okay. Well, this has the comments on the side if you kind of want to see what we've got in there for comments. And then this is the MOU between the county and the fire district, and then there's the MOU between the fire department. There's a section in there that I think it goes into way too much detail on the MOU between the fire districts, more so than the MOU promises. So, but if you read my questions there, you can reference that other document, and I'll follow up with you next week so we can finalize that.
Commissioner Kent is committed to a conference on Monday, out of town, so he will not be there. I will certainly be there at the early meeting. I've got 2 other meetings that day, but I'll try to go in and out.
And I'm not sure what to expect from it.
Sounds like it's a pretty good learning thing. It's,
Yeah, I think so.
I'd like to be on the after action review.
And, you know, they've asked me a little bit about, you know, what I think we can do, and one of the things I think we can do is push this more to the Denver news media. We've got a lot of public information out there in southern Colorado, but people up north don't realize how bad it is south of Highway 50, or what the fire restrictions are coming in, or they're confused. So,
somebody said in the Action 22 meeting yesterday that they thought that the fire ban was going to be lifted in Fremont County, and they were for the 4th of July. Have you heard anything like that?
I thought they just went into restructuring.
I know.
Yeah. I don't think
And they
so.
were talking about still not giving up hope. Somebody did for the Lake Louise fireworks. You had anybody approached you on that?
There was a Facebook thread on that I saw last night where Terry Munson said, because somebody said they're still collecting donations, and Terry Munson said they are, and the vendors agreed to store them if we buy them, and we can't. So they've been ordered, but
maybe that's why people are. Maybe it's rumors because they've been ordered, and they're all thinking it's going to happen.
Unless you
lift
lift the restriction.
I know, that's what I said. I haven't heard that yet.
And Meredith had a good question, because that's what state wildlife area out there at the lake. And then there's private property where they launch from. But Meredith asked, you know, in terms of fire restrictions, how that gets enforced, because the federal restrictions apply to BLM and DOI Forest Service, the county restrictions apply to unincorporated. But she's like, well, what about the state lands? And there are some school sections and stuff. And I said, good question. I'm not sure where the jurisdictional authority is there.
I think it's county land anyway. Authority. Well, maybe not for the.
Yeah, you can't supersede federal
not
authority.
Federal authority.
And there's one line in there, you'll see, Clint, where it says something about we can close lands, and I don't know what lands we can close, because we can't close federal lands. The feds have to do that, so we can't even close them on.
That's right.
We can't even close them during a search and rescue mission. Or put up, you know, the sheriff can't put up a roadblock. We get in a lot of trouble there real quick. So, on the grants, I signed the Ready, Set, Go. You send it back. I'm going to try to scout that out and narrow it down with some of these same stakeholders there on Monday of what we're going to do. We had already done the public notice on the tilt funds that we had to spend this year, and I'm coming up with about $19,500 left in the county tilt funds, which 500 of that, 5,000 of that was towards that grant. But I think we're going to have close to 15,000 more I'm going to have to spend. So whatever outside the scope of the Ready, Set, Go grant, whether it's chipping or slash collection or something, we'll have to expand that. So I'm going to try to get that request for proposal put together and figure out what I can talk to the International Association of Fire Chiefs, find out what we can do, get it out there for bid or however we need to do that. And that's a pretty quick turnaround on that grant. On the public health grant, they're working with Jamie, who's a hydrologist with the Forest Service, to go up 386 and spend some money. We've got about 68,000 left, and I told them I don't mind what we do as long as we don't commit the county to a penny more than what was in the grant, and they're going to look for some more grant funds. So I think Paul Christine will be at the mid-month meeting, so that may come up as a topic on that grant. And then the hazard mitigation plan, which I did my first year on the job, I got an email from the state saying, that's only a 5-year plan, and you need to reapply for a grant and start the process all over again because it'll take that much time. And so I thought about jumping off a bridge when I got that email.
I was going to say, you worked a long time on that.
I do not even want to go there again. So that'll be, and that was a lot of money. It was a $50,000 grant. I don't know what it would entail to do it on our own without the contractor. I know Pueblo County did their update on their own the last time around. So future thing we need to think about, because I'll have to approach you before we do anything there. And then I'm meeting with Bob from the airport Authority Board we decided on drafting an MOU, not,
You mentioned that.
MOU or intergovernmental agreement. I don't know what it needs to be because it's interagency.
Right.
It's not intergovernment, it's inter, and, so I'm gonna meet with him Wednesday. And I think that's my biggies unless you have questions for me, so I got a lot to get caught up on.
What was the date of that training, June what? Talk about it.
The 10
Oh,
a.m.
Monday the 12th.
Is it 12 or 11?
I got a tourism meeting.
Yeah, 12th, isn't it? Monday's the 12th or 11th? Am I on
The
that?
11th is the
Monday's the
Monday.
11th.
Oh.
Yeah.
What time is that? Where is it?
10 a.m. and then,
It's Firehouse.
yeah, at the firehouse, Wet Mountain.
In and out all day, sounds like, yeah.
And I did find out through this last fire, it'll come from the after action, that road and bridge surf agreements aren't updated, and, but I think we're gonna be able to get them some money back for having water tenders on the fire, eventually.
Is that meeting on the 12th or on the 11th?
On the 11th.
Monday.
On
So
Monday,
it's Monday
everything's
the
on
11th.
Monday,
Okay.
yeah.
I went to that last year.
Catch everything I said,
Did I go to
This
that?
is, oh, I
It's a
think you
different
went
one?
to the AOP meeting,
Was
the
it
annual
different?
operating one.
Yeah.
This is, they've got a special, Forest Service has put together a special prevention and education
Oh,
team.
maybe it's just.
And it's something they've pulled together, and this team is coming here, and then I think they're doing a meeting at the bowling alley on Saturday, which I think is June 23rd, I don't have my calendar. So there's a meeting, another meeting coming up that Jeff Uthier's got put up.
6
yeah.
to 7:30.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that's the same team, so I think they're meeting with the stakeholders now. But I could be a little off.
So I will be there on the 10th, or
Okay.
on the
On
11th,
the
sorry,
11th.
I read it down on the
Anything
12th.
you need, we're not giving you, then we can help you with.
I just need to keep Meredith.
Yeah.
She's.
That's up to you.
Well, I'm not letting her go anywhere. She's, you know, I'd be pretty overwhelmed, especially with these grants and stuff. I think I am a little overwhelmed, but, you know, other than that, I'm happy with the progress we're making. You know, I
Do you
think
need some help with that? I mean, would a part-time person help you if we got somebody on a part-time basis? I mean, just a contractor for, a few hours a day, I mean.
well,
It's
I
such
mean,
important stuff. I
if we
hate
can
for
get,
that.
you know, I mean, I've got a little buffer to bump Meredith up if we go over on hours and fires, and if we make it through the end of June and I'm not over budget with where I had planned to be with her, then I'm probably gonna bump her up a little bit in the third quarter on her hours. You know, she's really, you know, if you look at her hourly rate and no benefits and everything, you know, that's probably
I don't
where
want either of you to
could
get
make
burned
some
out.
adjustments.
If you need
Oh, yeah.
assistance, please say,
Okay.
Commissioners, come help me. We
Okay.
will, okay?
Well, I'm gonna have to take a couple damn days, cause that class burned me
Hmm.
out. That was a lot of.
And tourism does meet on Tuesday, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions for me?
Good. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Go rest.
Yeah, I'm gonna go camping tonight. Meredith's on call. I'll be back tomorrow.
No open fires.
No open fire.
You do,
Not
go
at
down
all.
by Wetmore, apparently they don't care down there.
So I did hear that was a root that burned
Oh,
through, a stone fire ring, and the root
no
caught and went
kidding.
underground.
No way, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
That happens.
All
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thanks for everything.
Well, sir, how
Okay,
about
it's time
we
for the IT department.
move for the IT department? You'll have to get used to that, I would imagine.
The witticisms
Hello,
just
sir.
flow from our. Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to
You're
come
welcome.
in as a regular staff
Of course.
report.
It's a staff
I think
of
that's gonna be
one.
good in the long run.
There you go. I put together a little
Sir?
report.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll get to this here. So basically, as it outlines in the report, the last 5 months have been an adventure, getting all of the, getting everything straight and learning the fun little labyrinth that is Custer County IT. So it's been an adventure, and then the day-to-day stuff is also a good experience. So it's been really neat working with everybody on a completely different level than I've had in the past. So.
You caught up?
I'm getting there. I'm definitely getting there. We're in the process of changing over all of the emails right now that are currently going to Chuck at Custer County Gov. All of the logins for everything from YouTube to the MSAG with the Intrada 911 system.
You blew by something really quick.
Sorry.
The email is, you're changing over to what?
Either my personal email or I've created an ITJS email login so
You're not
that
changing the emails that...
No.
Okay.
Not people's individual emails.
Sorry.
No.
Okay, keep going. I'm
no.
sorry. I thought you were
Sorry.
going to custercounty.gov
You know,
as opposed to custercountygov.com, which I always thought was a little weird, but...
and typing out and having to type that whole deal out, that's a very frustrating.
So the real issue is there's other Custer counties and why we can't do it.
There are other Custer counties.
CusterCounty.gov.
And changing so CusterCountyGov.com was set up in the silver age per se of IT in Custer County, and changing over that would involve changing over all of the web pages, and it would be a big
job.
complicated process. Now, it's not something that I'm not opposed to doing. It's not something that I am opposed to doing. Excuse me. It is something that we could consider just truncating that, creating a new host server if we need to. Basically, someplace to store all of our data and all of our information exchanges. We just have to figure out a way to transfer all of the existing data into a new place if we did that. So it's not something I'm opposed to doing if that's something we want to look at. It is a
We don't know if
project.
it's available, do we? Custer County...
I could take a look and give a report next month about
I know it's just for grins, just to
Okay.
see what the options are.
All right, we'll do. We'll do.
How's the website going, all right?
The website is going well. We are doing the live streaming. I mentioned that in part of there. I've got an embedded code in your commissioner site where people can click and link to the live stream event and also all of the archive data. Brenda's been putting the audio recordings linked in there as well, so it's kind of a one-stop shop for either watching the archived live stream or going back to the old audio recordings as well as the minutes once they're approved. So it's all there. I've created a web page that keeps people updated on the tower project. As we talked about, I created a web page for the one-stop shop for all the minutes for Custer County. I'm sorry, not all of them, but everything that is actually flowing in here to us. People can access those at any time on the web. So.
There was a request to see if we could post the staff reports on that website as well.
Okay.
I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know how many physical reports we're going to get just because we have a staff report.
Something like this, or
correct.
Okay.
I
could create a new drop-down menu and say label it create it as staff reports. But
I have a question about how many people can actually look at those.
Right, that's the other question.
If Jackie Bubis wants them, I can email them to her. It's not a problem. All she has to do is ask for them. So.
That might be the more that'd be a cleaner approach.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, like
I kind of question whether all of that needs to be on that website. I mean, sometimes there's sensitive information. I don't know. But I suppose if we had to do it, it's a possibility.
Yes, it is a possibility. It is definitely not a big issue.
Okay. Good.
I see you're looking at the last page of the.
I went right to the
Cut to the chase.
Yes, exactly. So on the second page there, I do mention in a bullet point we're looking at a new telephone system for the county building here. We went through, as you may or may not know, or as our live audience may or may not know, the service tech for our phone system passed away. leaving us without any service for our phone systems. Chuck and I attempted to do some in-depth study. We downloaded manuals. We did all sorts of work on it. There is literally hexadecimal interface with this old with this old box downstairs in the basement. It's not serviceable at this point. We've even brought in outside techs to look at it. They just kind of throw their hands up. Jason Livengood did really work hard to attempt to work with ESI, excuse me, ESI to service that box, and they basically said no. They're remarkably recalcitrant in dealing with us. So he gave us a quote for a new system, and I've actually obtained 3 quotes for a phone system for the county. One was from Arrow for $22,000. One was from the folks that are putting in the 911 system, and they're also doing a telephone system for the sheriff's office for $25,000. And this quote, which we have here, is for about $18,600. Jason and his company, Clover Technologies, just got the okay, go ahead to do the phone system for the school with the exact same system that they're offering us for about $18,600. So, Jason, like I said, he showed more interest than anybody else in actually working with us and making certain that we could get a phone system.
When are they putting the school in?
What's that?
When are they doing the school?
I believe they're doing that this summer.
Are we ready to do it this summer too?
Yes, we need to.
Can you leverage the fact they're coming up here and to save even a few more bucks on this one, or did they do that when they wrote this?
They did give us a good deal on that. But I just barely found out about the school, so I don't know if we could work
Twist
with
their
that.
arm.
Right, exactly.
I don't know what it's worth.
On one of the pages in there, I did actually show in the county budget that we budgeted for $25,000, and by coming in at $18,600 or 19,000, we're about $6,000 under. So
it's budgeted this year.
It is budgeted, yes, it is budgeted.
So it's covered.
It is covered. And it would cover all of our phones. It would replace all of the existing phones. There would be a training period where his people would come in and show people how to use the new phone system. It is fully upgradable. The phone systems nowadays are divided into two categories. One is the cloud-based and one is the server-based. We are rejecting the cloud-based simply because
Not reliable.
right, exactly.
I don't trust the cloud.
Exactly. As we saw last week, with our telephone, our internet system, excuse me, was terrible. There were a lot of issues. There were a lot of problems last week, and so
Is our internet coming in over CCOM or is it AT&T on there?
No, we use CCOM and CenturyLink, and some people with cell phones will use the AT&T. For instance, I just set up, the sheriff's office is setting up a remote counseling system with Sol Vista, and we're running it off of the AT&T 4G wireless system so that they can do remote counseling sessions and not be worried about whether or not we've got CCOM or CenturyLink up in the valley. So that is an option. Right now we're using CCOM for our high-speed work. This is being live streamed over CCOM. We're using CenturyLink as a backup and for our ACS secure stuff. So, yes, sir.
Would you please just verify with Ms. Holly, good morning, that we have followed the procedures that are appropriate for putting out for bid, and we met the county requirements for,
And he did, he actually went over and above, he tried to save the entire amount by getting someone who could fix it, but it's just not feasible.
and if we select, based on the recommendation, this particular company to do this particular job, we as a county have met our obligation to put it out for bid and do everything that, okay, so you're comfortable with it?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. That's all.
And I would love to have a new phone that I could actually put on hold and get off of hold.
We have talked about this ever since I've been here.
I was in the meeting earlier, and as I walked past DHS, she grabbed me and said the exact same thing. She had just tried to put someone on hold from Kentucky that was now lost in the ether, so.
I think Commissioner Cameron brought up a really good point about maybe, and I hate to use the word bundling when you talk about phones, but
okay.
maybe since they're already coming up working on one, there could be
Tie it
some
into
cost
their
savings
schedules.
moving
Okay.
over.
All
You
right.
know, I think that's an excellent point.
I can talk to Jason about that, and we can move forward. And if you guys would like to talk to Jason, I can bring him in. And he like I said, he above anybody else has actually put the effort into making this happen.
So let me ask you a question. Are you asking us to approve this contract at this point? Sounds like you have gone through.
Yes, I am asking you to approve.
I don't know what else
and
we need to know.
And I'm offering you to.
I move
offer
we
more.
accept it, and let's go with that company and see what you can do about tying it
Is
together.
that your motion?
Yeah, I'm making a
I'll
motion.
second it.
All right.
And, you know, just, because when he wrote that up, he didn't know that when we would be contracted.
That's correct, yes.
So there's an opportunity to say, even if it's $500, it pays Brenda's slush fund.
Okay.
7,000.
Then moving second to contract with Clover Technologies for a new phone system. Further discussion? What's the timeline, do you think?
He said that, excuse me, he said that it would be about a month and a half to 2 months out on the tech. Installing it is going to be about a week.
Question, if I may, please. Will it be redundant so that phone service is not down while they're bringing the new one up?
Yes, there will not be any downtime. We will, and he actually worked into the bid to actually rewire the boxes to make certain that everything's cleaner. And that's one thing that I didn't mention in there because we don't know, yes. We had a tech downstairs and he about threw up his hands in horror at the condition of the phone lines, and he says, I can't believe that we as CenturyLink have allowed this to happen.
Just going in just the courthouse or the jail too?
This is just the courthouse. The jail, they have their own, they actually worked that into their 911 budget.
That's right.
Yeah. Also, there's two more things that I was going to mention about this phone system is that it's scalable. So in the future, if we move or if we do something bigger, we can scale it up. It's the exact same phone system as the school, and as you know, it's a much larger entity that for phone-wise. The other thing is we are going to be bundling telephone numbers, putting them together into the data lines and such. So we are going to be saving money. We don't know exactly how much, unfortunately, until we actually get into the nitty-gritty of it. We won't be knowing how much, but we will be saving money. Yes, ma'am.
2 questions.
Mhm.
Did you mention training?
Yes, there's going to be
Because
training on it.
the old phones were supposed to be so great and have all these things, but they never trained us, and the little booklets weren't worth.
No, they were not.
No. You can, and then my second
correct.
question is, at one point, they talked about the whole deal with a machine answering everybody's
Mhm.
lines, and if you want this person, press this. Is it gonna be that, or is it?
There's a lot of functionality in that, and we can set it up so that if somebody dials your phone number, it rings directly to your phone. We can set it up so that if somebody dials needs to speak to somebody in the clerk's office, it could go to a PBX, public, what's PBX? Basically an exchange. So we can set it. There's a lot of versatility. We can set it either way.
But we could still answer it.
Absolutely, yes.
Because I get that.
And that was part of the functionality. We specifically talked about DHS having a hotlines numbers that people need to call for confidential reporting and whatnot. So that is a functionality in there, and so we can set it up so that your phone rings directly to your desk, nowhere else, or we can set it up so that people say, dial 1 for the commissioners, dial 2 for the clerk, dial 3 for HR, that type of deal. We also included the fax lines in there. We have 4 fax numbers that that need to be included as well.
So I see there's 18 12 button phones and 8 24 button phones. Is that correct?
There's actually more than that. There are some included in the system.
Okay.
They're actually 7 48 button phones and 28 24 button phones and 4 analog phones we have in the building, and all of those will be met by that quote. As well as 2 extras of the small phones and 1 extra of the large phone for any time they malfunction, and there is a warranty that goes with that in the data packet.
So they lay in line so that if we modify a room, and we modify rooms here, they can add the phones into separate cubicles or whatever.
We could do that, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's all actually off of the
Add numbers.
data, and so we can run. So the phones are set up as basically computer interfaces with the server downstairs. So we can run another line over, and the phones will be set up individually.
And we could take any or all of this system to a new building if that ever come to pass?
Yes, indeed.
You know, I had
That
a
was part of the
question
conditions.
also.
Yes,
I had
sir.
that question also, but then I thought to myself, well, we built a new system, just look at the phones here, so I decided I'm not going to ask it. But I thought that question also.
Now, that is an interesting question because it leads into another part, is that when you actually look at all of the phones in the county, there is a possibility of taking and putting a remote system down at Road and Bridge and having them be on a PBX where if somebody called the county itself, you dial 5 for Road and Bridge and it would go to Road and Bridge, and then we wouldn't be paying for, and that's a cheaper price, and then we wouldn't be paying for 4 lines, 2 fax machines, and a DSL line over there.
I'm very comfortable that you did your research, did your homework. If you know what you need, I know you. I'm very comfortable. When you said, I asked you the one question, do you recommend this? You said yes. I'm done. I'm happy.
Thank you. And you guys have already voted. I don't know why I'm going for the hard sell. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. You made a motion.
Still in the period of discussion. Any further discussion, Commissioners? Public comment? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. All in favor of hiring Clover, purchasing a package from Clover Technologies for the phone system, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Good job.
Another 25 grand.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So the
good
new
job.
system has a split on DSL between CCOM and CenturyLink too?
The new system will actually be run off of phone lines, so it will be CenturyLink. Now, another point in there in the future projects that I put down was fiber connectivity or high-speed copper, which we've talked about because the state is doing this. This is one of my big issues, is the connectivity and communications issues. So we are going to be looking for more secure, more stable communications. CenturyLink is more stable, CCOM is faster, but CenturyLink has some new options now with new technologies that will allow us to be both stable and faster. So we're going to be exploring that. But like I said, the phone system runs off of the phones. It's not internet-based.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Thanks, good job.
Very good.
Well, thank
Get
you
out of
very
here.
much. Okay, I'm done then.
I agree with him. Good job. Get out. Thank you. You appreciate
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Everything looks okay to me.
Okay, appreciate it.
She's going to be a while.
Thank you,
Let's take a
Jason.
break if not.
That's right.
Ms. Hobby, you all right with us taking about a 5-minute break, 3-minute break?
That's why I'm sitting, that always happens to me. Because
You're always at the right
I
time.
know, and
At
so I
the
get to the
wrong
back
place.
Good luck. I'll be with you in spirit.
Okay, yeah, they're thinking about it here. This is their stuff.
Okay.
Mute it before someone says something off color.
Quick, mute it, quick.
Yeah.
We're liable to say something stupid.
We're back.
Call the meeting back to order, 2:43 p.m. Welcome.
Donna's back.
How are you?
Nice to see
Bearing gifts.
Oh, yeah.
And a quick recap to save you from reading forever. Right now, we could be at 42%. Our expenditures are at 40, the revenues are at 39, so we're just cruising.
Like we're right on track.
Yeah, so we're,
If we could just reverse the thickness of these two documents, our revenues
The in
would
and
be a
out.
lot,
yeah, funny how that
lot
works.
thicker than the. Yeah. Good. Anybody way out there as far as, I know we don't want to
No,
include
really
insurance in that.
everything is
'cause-
just, it's just normal. Sometimes maybe people bought, a set of books or something that's good for the whole year and so that item would never, ever have another expense, but everybody seems to be running fine.
Good.
And I heard you all talking about, the airport, the revenues and different things. In 2017, somebody out there had actually left a donation, so I had set up a line.
You already have a line?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
because it was, that Dallas was thrilled that somebody had said thanks for the great, place out there.
Oh, yeah, I
And-
remember hearing that.
Yeah, and so we've set that up, and so it'd be just real
So
easy
just
to.
drop it in there.
And then that's
Just
in,
drop it.
that is in Virginia's office?
Is all money needs by law has to go through, by
Yeah.
statute has to be deposited, and then when it goes on her ledger, I pull it out and put the journal entry into the.
So what do they have to deposit it as when they give it to?
Ordinarily,
Just the treasurer,
everybody's
just-
really explicit, they, a grant, they'll say, this is grant to 33.33950.
Well, in this case, we will tell the ranch to make the check out to the treasurer and put a note for airport.
Yep, airport, and that way, and maybe airport donation, and then I would know that donation would go right into that.
All right.
So then when they pay a bill out of there, do we need to do that like a transfer?
Nope, it'll be right in the fund, just like their,
Airport fund, if you're rolling it up.
The only thing we might do is probably make another line item, for,
Airport,
runway
improvement.
or something along that line that,
Sure.
just so we could segregate it to just ease.
That'd be good.
So we're already halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
Money's always welcome, so I'm more than happy to make extra revenue lines.
Always add a line for more money, huh? Good.
I am currently working on the budget, trying to get the numbers in so that I can maybe see what we'll have coming back, but it's arduous.
Yeah, and I
That's an
wondered
understatement.
about having, what kind of documentation we either need or should have when we meet with.
Well, I
Bernardo.
am trying to get a preliminary, and I have worked really hard on it, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to have it completely done. But I would like to be able to give you guys a number that says out of the 163, that we've already picked up 100,000 of it. But I don't know if I'm trying, but it is, I have to physically move every number from 2018 to 2017 to the actual, and then do estimates based on where we are. Based upon these numbers, we're not gonna pick up anything at 42%, and we're at 40 and 39, but
Running right on the.
yeah, we're running
That's
right
okay.
on schedule, so,
Looking at this report that we got, I guess it was from Jackie Harvey, looks like housing permits dwelling permits are pretty high, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm gonna suspect maybe our revenues will be up a little bit next year.
well, and that's one of those things too, it's always
Yeah,
our
that's a good
weather.
point.
Our weather, if we
Right.
have a longer, we have
Building
a
season.
short growing season, but a longer building season, landfill, if people stay longer, they keep using the landfill.
Yep.
It's just, it's the best guess at
Yep.
the time. But everything, so far so good.
So, do you need a motion to accept the financials for, month, I guess this is May, right?
Have we been doing that? I know we have, but we don't
Ordinarily,
need a
if
notion.
we were here on the first or second, these are still a week out, because I have to do handwrittens and
Yeah,
balance
it's
out
not the
mine and then
final.
move to John's, and these are just,
updates.
yeah, just the updates towards the ending goal of.
No, we don't need a motion.
Okay, good. All right. More figures.
No, just more abacuses.
All right.
Like be fast.
You are fast, I like it.
When you have to wait longer than you present, it's crime.
That is a bummer.
You know, I always had that philosophy, if it took longer to cook than it took to eat, it's
Oh,
not
amen, like a pie. A pie is the worst one. 8 hours to make, 2 hours to see it done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good job.
Okay, next item of business is the reviewing the IGA for the Werfenau County and Custer County weed possession.
Partnership, huh?
I think we have that in hard copy as well as electronic.
Yeah, I read it.
Let's see here. And I thought we were signing off on that, but no.
We're not?
Why not?
I don't have the hard copy,
Oh.
Bet she can print it.
but if we are gonna sign off on it,
Hey, go, I got a hard copy of this for you.
stinker.
You don't have that in
I
your,
don't
in
think
your
so.
sign here?
I thought I saw it, but maybe.
I thought I only had the quick claim deeds.
Yeah, oh yeah, okay. Well, there you go, you can sign that one.
And I don't get
What
any
did I
sign
see
here.
on the weeds?
Do you want to sign here?
I'm just so thankful that it wasn't already in my packet. No, that's right. Oh my gosh. So the IGA with Werfenau County to utilize their weed manager / sprayer, because he is one and the same, and we had talked about trying to get to there for us as well, to that point of having one person do both, although I know Roger Squire is willing and capable of helping serve as our weed manager pro tem. So I would move that we approve the IGA between Custer County and Werfenau County for the weed management board.
I agree, I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the IGA for
The
the
hard copy of it.
weed.
Is that the same thing?
Yeah,
It's a two-page document.
yeah,
Says agreement for weed control.
yeah.
So what date are we putting on here? Is that up to them to put it on there?
I would guess probably today. Discussion?
The only thing I think, I read it, I thought it was a very good agreement. Clint, did you reviewed it, of course, right?
Yes, I did.
Or write it?
No, I didn't write it.
Okay. Clint's good, I thought it was a good agreement.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I did not write it, I revised it,
Okay.
and then sent it out, so, I certainly can't take credit for writing it, as you probably already knew that. Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, the motion carries. I will sign said agreement. Those guys, I think, are gonna be really good to work with down there, those commissioners in Werfenau County are,
This is Burns. He passed out.
Oh, no, I can give it back to you.
Probably be a good idea.
top left, ma'am.
Okay.
Bottom left is for your cohort and
Oh, okay.
Werfenau. Okay, road vacate for Cole King, a follow-up on,
Let me get Jackie.
the item, that Ms. Hobby brought to us before. We approved that, both parties were here, and, then they were instructed to file, all the necessary documents. This is an attempt to finish up that, so that's kind of where we're at. We'll
We got the survey and description of the land from the county surveyor.
Yes.
So
What's
what they
Jackie
call
bringing
it?
over?
She's coming over to present this a little more formally.
I wonder why they call it a road vacation. I mean, does the road go into Disneyland or something?
Yeah. And while we're waiting for Jackie, I got a request through the mail about another road vacate. I sent it over to Jackie to let her review that before we ever got involved in it directly, and it's for a request to vacate a road that, just real quick, is signified here in red. But according to a note from Jackie, if we were to allow that, we would landlock that parcel right there. So she certainly recommended not to
Where is
vacate that road.
It's in Rosita somewhere.
Acapulco Gold is the landowner.
Yeah,
It's a marijuana.
Yeah.
sounds like it.
Yeah, I didn't know
How
that.
much you
No,
want?
I did know that. Yeah, I guarantee you it was. It was that and Hawaiian whatever was,
Yeah.
was the big mucky muck. So anyway, we may come back to this at a board meeting.
Why'd they want it vacated, did it say?
Oh, let's see
Because it
here.
splits one of their
Like the
parcels
neighbor
in
wants to
two, I
landlock
think,
it.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to get in a battle. Jackie, sit down in the throne.
Okay.
So anyway, I will bring that up. I haven't had a chance to visit with Mrs. Hobby about that, but I will, and then if necessary, I'll bring it back to the board.
Ouch.
If it
Did you not see my comment?
I did see your comment, thank you.
If it doesn't meet with any of our requirements, all right, let's see it.
So Jackie and I can handle that through a letter if you're all right with that, or?
Deny it on your own. I don't even need to see it if it's,
I think it was sent to him.
yeah, I saw that.
So
No, fine. I
it's
just
a
don't
no.
think we need an action on it if it's landlocking someone. I mean, that's, the
against the law.
decision is taken.
We can draft
easement
it.
across it. I mean, even if you vacate it, you can still give them an easement to that parcel. That would be a one-way handling it.
True, but you already have a
You
road
already
going
have a
to
road,
it.
so
Yeah.
it's already a right of way. You wouldn't
We make it
vacate it and
exclusive
put it in.
easement, so it's no longer a public road. I just deny it, it's easier.
It was the look.
So that works, if you give him one of those looks, he just, I'll have to practice that. Good afternoon,
Hi,
how are you?
good.
Resolution to vacate for King and Cole, which we've already really done. This is a follow-up on the documentation.
Correct,
right?
and Mr. Cole asked me to come represent him. He was working and I have no problem. Usually we do them in our zoning meetings anyway.
Okay.
I would imagine that if you do the resolution and then you do the deed from the county to King and Cole, I would prefer that instead of giving the clerk's office the paperwork to be recorded at this time, to hold off until I get the deeds to Mr. Cole and Miss King's property, and then we record them at the same time. Because I find that if we don't, sometimes the scraggle will always be a scraggle, and it's just left out there in the breeze.
I agree.
So
What's great?
are you wanting to wait because they're gonna record the deeds? They're gonna record their new deeds.
Yeah, we deliver the deeds to them, we're conveying to them, we deliver, it's up to them if they don't record it.
But it's a county deed, and we've always just recorded them, and we don't charge, as long as the county is grantor or grantee, we don't charge, so. Correct, but they had to do a new legal on theirs, they had to take
Oh, I thought their new legal was on the.
I thought
from
it
the
was
county.
too. I thought it just incorporated, let me look at this again.
But wouldn't their new deeds, wouldn't we have a resolution, then you're just conveying as a county a portion of the said road, which is what?
I thought we already
Trailing.
agreed to do this.
Trailing.
We did another resolution, did we?
No.
We never did a resolution because we decided that, I got the minutes here.
You decided to do it, you just didn't do
do it
Right, it
officially.
didn't have a,
Okay.
the legal description actually incorporates the parcel they already had, lot 1, block 10, plus the east half. So this is a legal description.
So they don't have to do new deeds?
Um,
Oh, I
I'm
see
not
what
sure
you're
what you're
saying,
talking
like
about.
on a normal vacation, like on a, but if it incorporates it into this, then that's just the same, isn't it?
Well, I incorporated this as the legal description,
Oh.
and the legal description, what?
I know what she's saying. They need to, after these deeds, they need to do a
They need to
quick
file
claim from
these
them
first.
to them. Okay, I see what you're
So.
saying.
So what are we doing today,
So
Jackie?
let's start with,
Start
first
over.
of all, we need a resolution. Then we'll need a deed conveying the property that the county owns, that road. Half of it to, which we had, because we asked Mr. Cole to get a description of it.
So we don't
so-
have that yet.
Yeah,
The
yes,
deed, and
that's,
This is a resolution.
well,
It's in
mine don't
the
have.
attachments, parcel A, parcel B.
And the quick claim deed.
Did you see the
That's
attachments?
what you emailed to us.
You're talking about the 2 claim deeds?
Mhm.
Okay.
Now, if I'm Mr. Cole and Mrs. King, I need to take my property deed and make a quick claim
Go
deed
file it.
in my name so that I get that other
include-
deed out of it,
Right.
right?
Yeah, actually, the county is quit claiming something it doesn't really own us when it conveys lot 1, block 10. The county doesn't own that. It's just kept the legal description, put it all together as one parcel. So what they need to do is just use the same legal description, but they should do their own quit claim deed from themselves to themselves.
And you know, really, before, when we've done that other quitclaim deed from the person to the person, it's to deed the lot. But in this case, the did you do so the resolution does the vacation,
Right.
and the new description is within that deed. So that deed should take care of it.
But
Without
that-
them
it
doing
doesn't
that.
really, it doesn't, this description puts it all together as one parcel, the lot they had plus the half the road they're
Right.
getting. But the county doesn't have the authority to deed the lot, you know, it's a quitclaim
They
saying,
do.
we're just giving up whatever interest we've got.
So that's why I'm asking,
Yeah, so they need to use the same legal and do a quitclaim deed to themselves.
You bet.
because this is what has happened many times. A lot of roads back in the beginning of time were vacated in Rosita and surrounding areas because they were never built and they went to nowhere. So what would happen is there would be a resolution and we give half the road to the property owner and the other half to another property owner. But they never followed through. So then we did a huge resolution once that included tons of roads. But I have all these little lots that are, and they come back and I can catch them, that they vacated the road but the person never took title to it or deed to it.
Explain this to me, because I'm missing something here. We own the 2 lots.
No, you own a road,
We own a right of way over a
a
road.
right of way.
And what is it we're actually deeding to these 2? I'm looking at Kit's survey. So we're not.
Pardon me.
We don't own the road, we own the right of way,
And we're
vacating
giving
the
up
right of
whatever interest we've got in it.
way.
Okay,
And
but I got it.
they
And
still
that's
own
really
I
it,
it.
as
understand
far as
why
we're
we're doing
concerned.
this.
Well,
that's all we're doing.
That's all we're doing, we're giving up our interest in that right of
And then
way.
they're gonna
They're
deed the
gonna
actual
go-
And they already
physical
own the
property to
land, but,
themselves.
you know,
That's
now-
right, it's theirs already.
yeah, they're just
Got it.
getting rid of the right
Got
of way.
it. So we just need to make sure that they know that they need to do something
they
also.
do know.
They need to do something to their deed in order so
Actually,
it
they
doesn't
don't.
show the right of way anymore.
No, I gave Mr. Cole instructions. And he's got a blank deed to get ready to do his deeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the
Um,
good
It just
deed,
doesn't have them right away, huh?
So why I'm asking this is because also too, the recording has to be done in a sequence. Can't record the deeds without the resolution and you have to do, because the sequence will just be as detrimental into messing up this also. So what I'm asking is I don't care if you record the resolution, but I do care if you record those deeds. Because if Mr. Cole or Ms. King does not follow through, then we got this hanging out in nowhere land.
Are they gonna bring those deeds to you?
Yes.
So maybe you can hang on to the two
So I was thinking we'll
deeds,
give you the quitclaim deeds and you can hold on to them.
and then they can bring them all over at the same time.
That's what I prefer.
I like that.
And then I usually number them with little sticky tabs.
As to what order you want them recorded?
Because if I
So what
like
you need today is the
I'll put the right
resolution.
numbers on.
And the quitclaim deeds.
Please.
I'll move that the commissioners enter into resolution number 18-10, a resolution vacating a public right-of-way over and across a portion of Tralee Road in Custer County.
I'll second.
And I think we'll deal with the quitclaim deeds separately, don't you?
Yeah, you
Okay.
vote on this, then you
Yeah.
can vote on the quick
It's
claim.
been moved and seconded to sign resolution 18-10, vacating a public right-of-way. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay, motion carries. Group's pleasure on the quitclaim deed.
So we have to have a vote on the quitclaim
Yes.
deeds, so I would move that we effect the two quitclaim deeds as described
To Patty King.
to Patty King and to Kelly Cole and Sherry Cole.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to sign the quitclaim deeds to the Coles and the Kings. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion. I will vote aye as well. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
You don't have to.
Tongue got faster in my.
You didn't put it out for public comment.
No, I didn't. Let me look around.
That was Cheryl Cole.
That's what we said.
Shelley.
Cheryl,
Cheryl.
C-H-E-R-Y.
Cheryl, yeah, Cheryl
S-H-E-R-Y-L.
Sorry.
Right, S-H-E-R-Y-L.
I
S-H-E-R.
was looking at
I had
Kelly. and-
Sherry and I had Shelley.
Yeah.
So if you
Sure.
want to
I was
hang on
looking
to
at
the
Kelly.
two quitclaims, I'll go ahead and record the resolution.
That'll be great.
You got anything else to entertain us with?
No, I put your, report in your boxes.
Got it.
Your dwelling and
I was
stuff.
impressed that it looked like we had a lot more permits for dwellings in the first few months of this year than we have in the past. Well, we haven't had since 2012. I think
Sign
it
these or you
was.
want
Yeah,
to
we
wait,
haven't.
sign them once you bring them in?
You know,
No,
you can
fine.
expect a certain lull,
Yeah.
but we haven't hit the lull like we usually do, so.
Yeah, no, this is
I don't know if it was
encouraging.
because we had a mild winter or what, but we're doing really well.
People are buying it.
And then usually most of the stuff I just handle through the county attorney,
Great.
if that's a, you'll get copies of the letters when I get it.
Have you given any more thought to your fee schedule? i.e. increasing your zone or your permit fees?
Every January is when we look over the fee schedule. It's been like that, doesn't mean that it has to be like that. I thought that last time when we were in Wetmore, we decided to maybe revisit it in October during the budget
That's
time.
what, did we just say that?
And I do think we are a little bit low. I do have a huge problem that I would like to discuss. Whenever there's an iffy thing, and I'm iffy in my office, like, a variance or something, or an SUP. I used to be that an SUP was $500. You just gave $500. Well, then I found out that it was, sometimes people wouldn't even go through they'd go through the presentation, but they wouldn't go through the rest. So we split it in 300 and 200. If you wanted to continue, then you just paid the $200. Well, here's the problem now. I have a variance that is coming up that I am very unsure of. I've already deposited the check. The gentleman's going to need to bring back some paperwork that probably will cost a little bit of money. He might weigh the situation and decide, but it's gonna cost him probably a little bit of money to get out of this, and we're gonna have to keep moving forward. Even if he says no to the variance, I will have to pursue this because it's been brought to my attention. But what I'm saying is if he says no, we don't give refunds. And I've already deposited his check. I put it on hold and then I took it off hold and deposited it. If I give that gentleman a written check for the $300, it comes out of my budget.
Where'd the deposit go? General fund?
Yes. So I have $1,200 in my budget and I just lost $300 for trying to help accommodate a citizen.
Well, I don't say you would have lost
Very
it now
noble.
that you've brought it to the daylight. I don't think it's lost. I think it's easy for the commissioner to say, oh, okay, got it. So we're gonna credit your account that $300.
That's what I would like to hear.
Or we could say, thank you for
Well, we
helping the
could,
general
and
fund.
use that on commissioner
I'm
travel.
perfectly fine getting into my bank. I have no issue with that. Back to your budget. The question I'm asking, you said we don't give refunds, and then you said you want to give this guy a refund. Why? What's the deal?
We don't give refunds, we usually give you credit.
Okay.
But on a variance, a lot of times, public will come in and they'll say, I want this type, well, let's just do this, a setback variance. Let's just say a public person will come in and say, I can't meet my 50-foot setbacks.
Okay.
Then I say, okay, it's $300 to ask BZA for a setback variance. But after I start doing the work on it, I find that there's no way you're gonna, in this particular instance, until you clean up the parcel that you're asking for, you're gonna get a
Ever get a
setback.
variance.
Get a variance. You're out of compliance and I can't keep letting you come back out or farther out. So then I feel that the time I have involved is probably 2 hours. Okay, I take that as a normal day of research and stuff. I would like to give, if the gentleman decides to stop right now, the $300 back. But there is no way in the way that we do our system that I can ever refund anyone any money, because then the $300 comes off of my budget.
It's really, I'm not sure. Maybe I didn't ask the question right. You said we don't give refunds, but you want to give this guy a refund. What's special about him?
Okay, so what's special is sometimes I feel that
Equity, you need to do it just to be fair and right.
just be fair and right.
I don't have an issue with that.
Because a lot of times people don't understand
What they're getting into or whether.
or the zoning. They have, and it's because it's a lot of little pieces to zoning that.
So he paid his money up front in good faith that he could
Didn't
do
understand
this,
what he
and
had
got
to
in the
do,
middle
now
of
it's a
it.
big quagmire, can't get anywhere, and he needs to quit.
So what criteria do you use when to give it a refund and when not to give a refund?
I usually try to give a refund when I feel that,
It was no fault of their own?
correct.
Got it. Okay.
And
I
I
don't
gave
have a
one,
problem with
a
that.
couple years ago I gave, no, it was probably 3 years ago, I won, and that was, come out of my budget.
So,
Not saying that I don't have enough money in my
Right.
budget to
But,
cover it, I do.
let's say you did that 5 times, that could eat up a bunch of your budget if it never comes back to the
And see, I
account
guess I
at the
don't
year.
understand it, the $300 was paid, it goes into the general fund, and then to give it back, even if I would go have Virginia write me a $300 check, then
You
it,
debit your ticket.
Got it.
So, stop having a conscience.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about if there's an inequity, one person says, well, I got a refund from Jack, and the other one goes, well, she doesn't like me, so I didn't get the refund.
oh,
Do you know what I'm saying?
no, I agree.
I'm concerned about that.
So, it's more on the heavy ticket items. If you get a building permit and you, paid too much, usually you'll say, credit my account because I'm gonna build a bar.
I have no issue
Uh-huh.
there.
It's usually on the heavy hitters like the variances and the SUPs that are $300 to $500 right up front. And I can put it on hold, and I put it on hold, then I took it off of
As
hold.
long as you're equitable with everybody, regardless of who the person is, I'm fine. Consistency is the key to this, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree totally. No.
Okay.
What does Mr. Smith think?
He thinks I'm crazy for even bringing it up.
He's thinking it's almost 3:15 and.
He wants to go home.
Right.
No,
I'm
I
ready.
got more work to do. No, it's a judgment call on your part, as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, your conscience is, when your budget starts dwindling down, then maybe you aren't, if it's a close call, you're not gonna give them their money back.
I think I would like to see something where I can give refunds.
That's not what you were asking for. Is that what you were asking for?
I was getting there.
Is that a county policy that we don't do that, or is it just been a historical thing that we don't do that, or is we don't do it because it causes this budgetary problems?
I think we must not do it because it causes a budget.
I think it's just a process issue with the finance guys.
Slightly differently. I think if Jackie puts 2 hours worth of work into a guy's a citizen's project, and then they pull out of it because they change their mind or whatever, I think there should be a penalty for that.
Right, and that's what she said she does, unless for the circumstances were that he had no clue or he couldn't do it.
Why
It's
don't you
fair.
have them sign something when they come in, non-refundable?
I do tell them.
Okay.
But maybe that would
Put it
be,
in
I think it's
writing.
on our, I think it's on our
That
permits
things
too.
can come up, either whether they change their mind about pursuing it, or whether they're not gonna get what they're seeking, there's no refund. Just put
But how many times does it happen? 100 times a year or once every 5
This
years?
is the second one.
Second one, what, this year or your
No.
lifetime?
Ever.
10.
Then I'm not
So that's not a big
worried.
deal, right?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So we don't need to
Well,
waste
I
any
think
more.
you're just making the board
neurons.
aware of the fact that your budget's gonna show a deficit because you.
And I was making
So-
the board aware that I would appreciate the $300
Right,
back in
and
my
I
budget.
think we all agreed.
Okay,
How
I
come-
move, I'm sorry.
How come your refunds work different than like a refund in my office? It didn't come out of mine. I don't write a check for
Maybe
it.
you ought to go talk to.
Oh my gosh, see?
See, they're not treating you fair.
No. You can write a
Just saying.
refund?
I don't write a refund. I go to Virginia, she writes me a refund.
And where does the refund money come from?
That's
Well,
the
it
key.
balances out, it balances out somewhere, but it
It
doesn't
doesn't
come out of my
decorate your budget.
budget.
Okay, I move that we ask the treasurer to, move from the general fund $300 into, the planning and zoning budget to cover the refund that came out of the budget.
When I do.
If you haven't done it yet.
Oh, I thought you already did.
We might ask
If you
them.
decide to do it, I think it should be
Why don't
a
you
zero
just,
sum game.
we don't even need a resolution if you just go talk to Don and say, make sure it goes back into your account.
Or it's Virginia.
Well,
Yeah, it has
if
for
we're
general.
gonna move out of a fund, we have to do it as a resolution.
I don't know that it
Well, why?
depends on where they deposit
Why
it.
wouldn't my refunds be the same as her refund?
See, her refund came back to her budget line. I don't know why her refund can't come back to her budget line
Am I
through the
being
process.
treated different?
Well, there's no problem with being treated differently.
Okay, here's what I
If we're
would say.
treated unfairly, then we have an issue.
Let me talk to Virginia.
Virginia,
Yeah.
I
And maybe-
retract my
yeah.
motion.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we don't need to.
And then we'll
I
go-
retract
Go
it,
figure it
talk
out.
to it, and figure if we do need to move it by motion, because moving from one fund to another does
It
take
does
a motion.
require it.
But if it's not necessary, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I will
And
throw.
take Kelly as a witness.
I was just gonna say,
It's a-
I'll
here's how
throw-
you do it in
I'll
my
throw Kelly
budget.
underneath the bus.
Yeah,
Bye, guys.
and I might be all washed up.
You may lose some money.
I might.
She better set herself up. Thank you.
Mr. Shy, how are you, sir?
Okay, you're the only thing keeping us from a beer.
Oh, I've gotten between people in their beer before.
I know, I was afraid you'd say that.
Next item of business discussion about 800 radios.
Well, kinda.
It started out with megahertz and not the number.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Oh,
how
yes,
many
sir.
radios do you want?
I want 800 radios and you got them. Is this like a walker too? Can you use it as a walker?
I wish I could.
I crowded them out.
You don't have much room. Just kind of report on the situation. When I originally set this time up, we were short of 800 radios, which is a good thing because we've got 5 new volunteers. to the department, we're running through a system, and of course, if we don't have stuff to equip them, that's a good problem. But countywide, we're short on the 800 radios, and I just talked to Cindy, you guys have talked to Cindy already today. It's an issue. We're not getting any more state funding, it seems like, for that. We're not getting much help with grants for radios, and they're way out there, if we do. You guys all have them, right? And you're trained to use them? And
Nope.
okay.
Got 'em.
See,
We're sort of advised on how to use them.
see, that's part of it too, is that
Give you mine back.
you guys, wow, I appreciate that, but I want to offer you an alternative. I don't want you to be stuck without communication. So, as you know, we've got this a paging system through our cell phones. Fire department has one kind, search and rescue has another. Of course, we use like our own system. But the fire department, every call that comes in, I get it on here as well. So you get a lot more written information. It's easier on the dispatcher because they do it once. And then everybody's got some verbal or some written information on how to get to whatever it is or whatever's going on. You guys like to, I'm sure you're going to listen to Road and Bridge during storms and things like that. That's really important to you. Not so much listening to SO. Because it's
I don't
just
think we
so
get
darn
SO
much.
on the 800.
You don't have the,
No, we don't have that.
I have it in mind.
Right.
I think it's
We
sort
do
of
not.
a proprietary thing. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But you know, it's important that you have them at some point. I just like it to be kind of painless for everybody to have them. And it might make sense to start switching to this paging system. If you guys could get on the paging system, I think we can add you to it through the fire department. At least get ours.
That's on
And
cell phones?
then yeah, it's on your cell phone.
Okay.
Let me show you. Here's an example here. So
Would that cover EMS?
it just
fire?
covers the fire
Fire
pages
fire.
right now. But what it does is it covers anybody who's on the list. And EMS has a little bit different system of doing it. Let me show you here if I can find it. Yeah, here's one. Let's see. Yeah, here's a response. This is what comes through.
And I think right now the radios are programmed for search and rescue, EMS, and fire.
Well, if you've got the three banks, you've also got Custer MAC, which is the channel that we use regionally that comes from Christie. We have MAC 8, 9, and 10, those are state deals. We have some talk around channels. There's a lot of power in those radios. The thing to do is probably to get you guys involved in the training, which will help let you know what you're listening to and what you should listen to. That fire down there the other day, they switched us to a MAC channel.
Yeah.
So if you guys didn't know that, you wouldn't have heard, you wouldn't know what was happening.
No, and part of my
Let's pick those
problem
things
is
up.
I don't listen to it continually,
No.
you know, so I might miss that one thing and go to Mac 10 or Mac 1. If you're not there and have the radio, I mean, my radio sits on the kitchen counter.
Sure.
So if I have to go to the bathroom, when that directive to change channels comes around, then
Well, and there's things you can scan too, you know, you can see, you can scan some of those channels that aren't being used that would be used in an emergency. And if there's nothing going on them, it
then
doesn't
you
stop
know.
that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's lots of things about them. I don't know half the capability of mine. I carry it on my waist all the time. In fact, there used to be a joke about remembering to take it off when you go to bed. But mine's with me all the time. But there's certain things that I scan because that's what I want to hear. So you can customize it a little bit.
Is it?
We need to be all thinking about budget and what we're going to do with our budgets and our communications and as time goes on. This is a CES thing that we can accomplish some things at CES and pick one of those paging programs that everybody uses instead of everybody having a different kind, because then dispatch has to set up the same message in 3 different places.
What are you proposing for us to do?
I would like to see us work through CES and be kind of proactive in that, and then seek out, you know, you guys kind of hold Christie's feet to the fire a little bit about funding through the state and through the regional efforts. There's even some federal money for these radios as well. One of the problems is that the Forest Service and BLM use a different radio altogether. They will not go to these 800s. Now they have like one in their truck, in one of their command trucks. So we can't even talk to them. When we go out, they have to give us their radio. So I mean, that's something that we've always tried in the past to do in the United Front, say, you know, get the feds to come on board with us. So we're all using the same stuff. And then it's always money, it's always fun, and you know, rotating these things in and out. We go for a grant for radios, and we're on a long list of people. And these, we're trying to get some hand-me-downs, we're doing a little bit of that right now. There just might be a way to fund through Christie, and we should start at CES with this. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys a heads up so you could discuss it here before you went. But there's a lot, it's budget time for everybody. We need to start thinking about how to pay for this.
Will you put this on a CES agenda and we'll have this
Absolutely.
discussion again in that group? And
Absolutely. And a little, you know, somebody's probably gonna have to kind of take this by the horns too when it comes to this paging system, because there being 3 different ones is really not very good.
Not very
And I don't
good.
care which one we end up with, as long as we're all doing the same
Yeah.
thing.
yeah, and that's where that whole maverick attitude will come into play and go, no, we're doing our own, we don't want.
Yeah.
But you know, with the cell phones and so much better cell phone coverage, and these things are smarter and smarter, apps for that sort of thing, bus drivers have got the same thing, everybody's got the same thing. Right now, bus drivers are carrying radios, but they don't ever work with them to train on. The only time they call us directly back to their people. I'd like to see every time they leave the barn that you hear it on your radio, the bus number 4 is en route to Levita for a game. Because then the dispatchers and the bus drivers are getting this information. And if we don't build these connections, and Mr. Pater, you know, he's well on board with funding and all that sort of stuff too. Other issue on here, talk a little bit about the IGA. You know, that's kind of sitting in limbo.
Yeah,
Is that some workshop?
we talked about it yesterday. We're still in that grace period for the clinic. Get her on board, Lisa Drew. She has looked at it. I did not talk to her today, but I know she has been given the IGA and has reviewed it.
Good.
She's waiting to kind of get with her board and talk about it. I don't know where they're at with that, but that's what we all agreed. We'll just sit on that IGA until she gets on board and gets up to speed, and that's where we're at right now. So we do need to keep moving forward with that.
Absolutely.
Well, and you know, there's a lot to that, cooperating on that. That's a good sign that we can start to cooperate on some other things too. And we all want to see.
You gonna talk to her?
If that's all right with you, that might be
I think you should.
idea.
Sure.
We get our new board seated, and
Just tell her what you're up to, why.
I think we're gonna maybe wanna try and have an invite of leadership folks, you know, the boards get together, or the board leaders. We used to do summits years ago, and that was, you know, once a month, or once every 4 months, quarterly. Let's see, quarterly would be 3 months.
Do you do the math here? I do. I went to school.
Yeah, 3 months, we would get together as boards and have with our interests in common. It's been a long time.
Yeah, we're starting.
Through
now
no
with
fault of
the-
yours, but there's a lot of that hasn't happened.
Right.
So,
I know when Paul was elected mayor, he asked me about, hey, you think we can get the 2 towns in the county to get together whenever? I said, absolutely, we need to be doing that across the board.
you know, in El Paso County, I know Dennis Heisey up there, and lots of boards like us, special district boards. And they do a quarterly thing with a representative from each one of those boards, carries the messages across lines, and they get together to do that. Probably something you're involved in.
No, I think it's a good idea, great idea, really.
So, I mean, that might be something to start thinking about, especially with the grant potential and all that. They always look at you and say, well, is somebody else in your community working on the same thing? A lot of times we can't answer that question.
Okay, so this was an info up, and we'll go from here.
That's it. Anything else you need? There are 2 fires right now. There's one south of Branson that is it's in New Mexico, but it's roaring north right now. And there's one in Fremont County that's going, and I have not got a location on it, but
Wow.
there's a helicopter up on that one.
Do you need us to give up our radios for the short term right now for your volunteer people?
I'm not gonna ask you to do that yet. We've got it covered right now. I definitely appreciate the offer, and I'll get it to our comms guy just in case, but, that's a great offer. I'm gonna ask you
I
to
don't
do
know,
that.
they're old, and
We're all right.
it's a whole new system to learn.
If somebody else needed it worse than I do, I get code reds.
Well, I want you to have an option.
Yeah.
If we did that, we would put you at least on our fire
I like that.
page. It works pretty good.
We all carry cell phones.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we can all be counted on having a cell phone. I don't know
You
about
can
this.
assign it an odd ringtone or something, so that when it comes over, you know what you're getting,
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
One other quick
We're
thing.
quitting.
Fireworks are not for sure. at all. We ordered them, they're collecting money
We
for them.
just talked about that.
I know you've talked about it, it's gonna be a summit meeting as well, you know, Shannon, and I wanna get DOW and Dennis Page probably involved in it.
Everybody ought to look at it
I
specifically.
feel like whatever you recommend is what I'm gonna.
Right now, everybody
just
says
me
no.
personally.
My assumption was, as of right now, if somebody asked me today, I'll say no.
It's a terrible signal to the public right now.
Right now, it is.
So, I know we should do it.
But it
safely.
could pour from here to the 4th of July, but the likelihood of that's about a snowball in Phoenix.
But don't you think, as it stands right now, we'd have to take probably the no position?
If somebody asked me right now, I would say no.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying, but I've
That's,
been
we're all-
also telling them that's my opinion.
We're all looking out the same windows, I mean, it's
Right.
rough out there. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
you
Ken.
bet. Thanks. Appreciate you coming.
Thanks.
Anytime, man.
Time's
And
valuable.
then the 12th, you're having a big deal down at the firehouse, huh, with,
I don't know, are we?
yeah, according to your boss, Cindy Howard, we
I'm the
are.
host.
And
I'm
he
the
said you
host,
were.
and I heard about it yesterday.
Yeah, there you
I'm gonna
go.
be fishing on Blue Mesa.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Take care.
You bet. Okay, any further items to come before the new business portion of the agenda? Public comment, executive session,
No, thanks.
hearing none, meeting is adjourned. Let the record show 3:30.